What's up, everybody? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Looks like we're having a slow going morning so far, I am just getting everything ready. Well, I take that back. I'm ready. So, tonight we'll make tonight at 8 p.m. is the end of Trump's ultimatum. I'm wondering what everyone thinks is going to happen, if anything. I know Trump has a tendency to keep pushing things back, but I'm pretty sure by now he knows that he can't do that. I think he's put himself into a corner, and now he must act. And quite frankly, I'm eager. I'm eager to see how it all pans out. Let's check out the news, see what they're talking about.
But also further leadership decapitation and genuinely disrupt the command structure of the regime.
Jonathan, I would be remiss if I did not showcase this social media post that the president posted over the weekend. I do want to say it's a bit colorful, big graphic, and some posts here. He posted this via Truth Social. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up in one in Iran. Yeah. There will be nothing like it. Open the expletive straits. Yeah. And he just continues on to say, or you'll be living in, and I'm assuming that our viewers can guess what he's saying here. So he is increasingly putting this pressure on Iran.
And he said, praise be to Allah. That was funny.
How is the Iranian regime responding when they see the president take to social media
definitely trolling
to issue these sort of demands?
The amount of people who took it seriously blows my mind.
Islamic Republic leaders know
so many
after
people
a few
took
rounds
it
of negotiations
seriously. How can he
threats,
say that?
consecutively coming one after another, that any threat posed by this administration is legitimate. Trump has followed suit with every threat he's made, whether it was prior to the 12-day war or with the recent ongoing campaign. So that's very key in the minds of Iranian policymakers, knowing that when he threatens, he's going to follow through. That said, the messaging itself could actually facilitate and pave the way for Tehran to, one way or another, try to create a rally around the flag effect. Once you actually threaten Iranian infrastructure and go after assets that are also beneficial to average Iranians, there is a risk there that you might be alienating them. That said, these are people that have been living under the Islamic Republic, the mismanagement by the regime that has been, of course, systemic, both on the infrastructure side, economic side, political, on whatever angle you look at. So to the average Iranian, the regime has not been competent enough to deliver on anything.
Yeah, that's for
maybe
sure.
To their minds, any attacks on critical infrastructure would just be a continuation of living under the Islamic Republic. But that said, bridges...
You know, the only thing Iran is winning at this point is the meme war.
Living under very harsh conditions, and worsening that could escalate the situation internally.
And they're killing that.
So it's a double-edged sword when you threaten those kinds of assets inside Iran. That said, if the idea is to somehow create some sort of an anti-regime movement again and reignite that momentum, the best way to go about it is to ensure that you really play into the grievances of Iranians, you play into the challenges that they have versus the regime.
And there's plenty of people in the streets that want this.
Folks on the ground,
there's plenty of people out there that want this.
The understanding there is a lot of these key infrastructure can...
In fact, it's more, I swear, you see more Iranians wanting this in the streets than even American citizens. Like, it's crazy.
On the street. So time is of essence. So long as this campaign continues to be about liberating Iranian people, or at least paving the way for them to define their own destiny, I think the average Iranian will be on board. But that said, messaging is important. PR really matters during wartime.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to get to just the impact to Iranian civilians and also protesters. little later on in this segment. First, though, staying with the Strait of Hormuz for this next question. This is a social media post courtesy of Fox News correspondent Matt Finn. He says this: the UAE insists even if there is a ceasefire, Iran cannot remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz and call the strait everyone's problem. The issue, Hormuz, has to be a part and parcel of the settlement of any conflict with clear agreement on that. Jonathan, is there any kind of scenario in which Iran would cede control of the strait? And what are possibly some of the internal conversations within the Iranian regime?
These people aren't going to back down. I mean, they've got a 1,000-year-old prophecy that tells them they must destroy Israel no matter what. And their beliefs allow them to lie, to kill. I mean, they've said the more civilians that die, the better. I mean, they're not going to let up.
Can now operate in the Strait of Hormuz. The United Arab Emirates has been the only one that's taken even remotely an assertive stance against the regime. I do think Washington is going to take that into account. So far, Persian Gulf states, Europe, of course, China and Russia, nothing really meaningful coming from them for them to really condemn.
A little dip in the market, so I bought $2 million with crypto. So in total, last night, $1 million of
continue with its, of course, destructive behavior and regionalizing the war. So those are the main issues. But you mentioned something very significant, which is how has the regime responded? Or what is Tehran's decision-making or policy thoughts as to what leverage they had? What can they concede? And
if they spent as much time with their military as they do on AI and propaganda, they might actually have a small chance.
The access to the Strait of Hormuz, we will turn into Gaza. So the Iranian mindset right now is, should they compromise in any way, that's going to be the total end of the regime or the Islamic Republic as we know it. That's their mindset.
Yeah,
so
the Islamic Republic needs to die.
Probably what they're thinking is that they want some long-term meaningful guarantees that should they open the strait, there's going to be no more attacks against Iranian leaders and so on and so forth. Now, would Washington ever provide something like that during times of crisis, given that very much Jerusalem and Washington are aligned on somehow paving the way for the prospects of regime change? Looks very unlikely, but again, just tells you about how far apart the different two sides are during an ongoing conflict.
Jonathan, we have another major development from early this morning. Taking a look at a social media post from the Israel Defense Forces, eliminated, and they're talking about the fact that the head of the intelligence for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard was killed. What is the most significant impact from this latest killing of this major general?
The main impact is internal. Looking at Israeli assassination
they're falling
waves
apart
throughout the past 5 weeks.
Don't be fooled by the memes.
There's been two parallel pillars, but one has been stronger than the other. Of course, one focus has been taking out the command structure, missile, command people, figures that are either tasked with developing grand strategy of regime defiance or somehow coordinating the different armed forces factions. Now, parallel to that, which has been more significant, is the internal security structure. So individuals that are involved in repressing protesters, killing unarmed Iranians, or somehow terrorizing the masses of the population to deter them from taking to the street. And that's what this individual is. So being of course, the intel command of the RGC, one of his main responsibilities is actually surveilling dissidents inside and, working behind the scenes to ensure that the average Iranian has no hope and is afraid of taking to the street. That's their primary job. And of course, the RGC being a brutal instrument of torturing the Iranians and dissidents, this is a devastating blow. But the grand strategic agenda by Israel here is to, at least from what it seems, is to eliminate the top leadership, so the commanders of key forces, and then to go after mid-level commander, brigade leaders, things of that nature, and inform them that time is not on their side. Should they not somehow work with Israel or with the Iranian dissidents, they'll also be eliminated. So that's the strategy there. We have to keep in mind there's hundreds of thousands of Iranian armed personnel left. So it's not realistic to expect all of them to be killed during this war. I think the idea is to either have them defect through PSYOPs or arm the Iranian populace so they can define their own destiny and actually counter whatever is repressing them the most, which is this armed body of the RGC and military.
We're taking a live look over in Tel Aviv, Israel. Again, Israel's the one that is claiming responsibility for that latest killing. And there's a couple of more social media posts that I want to get your reaction from, Jonathan. And these next couple of posts have to do with Kurdish forces. It's something that we talked about when this war first broke out several weeks ago. Fox News correspondent Trey Ying says this, and he posted this over the weekend. The United States sent guns to the Iranian protesters through the Kurds. President Trump told Fox News, quote,
Yep.
"We sent guns to the protesters, a lot of them,
And
I think
them.
the Kurds took the guns." Now, some Kurdish factions also responded, and Trey has another social media post. He says this, they responding to the remarks from President Trump, quote, "We did not receive any weapons during the time of demonstrations in Iran." Fox also reached out to additional Kurdish parties for comment. We're waiting to hear on that. So the question with this, what kind of moves are we seeing from Kurdish forces, Jonathan, and what do we know about
apparently we gave them a bunch of weapons and then the bad guys got them.
Kurds and the U.S.
Apparently, that's allegedly.
There are so many moving parts with the Kurdish developments that it's really hard to narrow down. But the overall image here was that United States and Israel were somehow entertaining, deploying, or at least assisting Iranian and Iraqi Kurdish faction. But what ended up happening, at least looking at online reporting, indicates that the Kurds did not receive enough reassurances that should they launch a ground operation against the Islamic Republic, they will receive sufficient air support or just military backing as a whole. Because they saw what happened.
I'm going to go over to Newsmax.
To get the pilot home, we are just so overjoyed. And overjoyed to have both of you this morning with your great insights. Thank you so much, Waleed and Fred.
I'm glad they got
as always.
Thanks, Kirsha. Thanks, John.
I'm glad we've got them safe.
Now turning to the latest out of Israel. As we await President Trump's speech later today on that high-risk
I think he's supposed
mission,
to speak
new
around,
details are emerging about Israel's role in the operation.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirming his country assisted in recovering the downed U.S. pilots, calling it a perfect execution.
For more, we go live to Middle East correspondent Jody Cohen. Jody, what are we learning about Israel's involvement?
They helped a lot.
Good morning. So Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he spoke on the phone last night with President Trump and congratulated him on what he called a perfectly executed American rescue mission. He said that the president expressed his appreciation for Israel's help, and Netanyahu said that he's deeply proud that Israel could contribute to saving a brave American warrior. Now, earlier Netanyahu had posted a message congratulating President Trump on taking such a bold decision. Take a listen.
Israelis and I, we know what a bold decision you took. President Trump, Donald, my dear friend, once again, your decisive leadership brought another great victory to America. I salute you. We all do.
Now, President Trump is expected to give a press conference at 1 p.m. local time to give details of the rescue operation. In the meantime, Iranian opposition website Iran International has suggested that 2 elite Israeli commando units were involved. That's Sayeret Matkal and Shaldag. Now, Sayeret Matkal are special forces involved in ground operations, and Shaldag is a special air force unit, and both are trained to go deep into enemy territory. Meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces said that they've carried out another wave of airstrikes against regime.
So apparently rescuing this pilot cost our military over $100 million because of the equipment lost, the everything that went down. But one of those planes that you see images of, apparently we destroyed it intentionally so that they couldn't get a hold of classified information or something like that. At any rate, if you follow the Iranian meme war, you know that Iran is constantly pumping out propaganda, and they've made their little Lego videos. They're winning the meme war for sure, but they're also making fun of the fact that we spent over $100 million by proxy, right, to rescue one pilot. Like there's something to laugh at that or something. Like, I don't know. I find it amusing that they think that that's something to laugh at. What do you think? Because that is a lot of money, but, I mean, you know, we don't leave anybody behind.
Always.
So I fail to see the humor in it, really.
Spoke with President Trump yesterday, confirming.
But I mean, you know, that's the IRGC for you. You know, they have a duty by their prophecy from 1,000 years ago to destroy Israel, no matter what the cost. Their religion allows them to lie in the media and use deceptive practices, like, you know, they store weapons in their civilian locations like hospitals and schools, so that when Israel retaliates, they can say, oh, look, you know, they're attacking our schools and our hospitals and our neighborhood. Yeah, they want them to, so that they can turn around and look like the good guy. I mean, these are the same people that marry children. Okay? Why anybody would support the Islamic Republic of Iran is beyond me. The people of Iran, that's a different story. And the people, they want this war. By and large, they're chanting Trump's name in the street. So,
holiday. The Pope gave his Easter message
too early to go on a
morning,
rant
and we'll
quite
have
yet.
all of the details next.
That's right. Our correspondent is live from Vatican City when First Edition returns. Stay with us, folks.
I streamed the Sunday or the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday service. Had a pretty good turnout. If you were one that watched it, I appreciate it. I got hit with a huge copyright claim though, so because apparently some of the hymns that they sing in church are copyright protected. Oh well. Let's go back over here and see what these people are saying.
For at least throughout this morning has continued to be the situation happening over in the Middle East, and really just all of those updates that we're following. A reminder that later on today, 1 p.m. Eastern time,
Yeah, Trump's going to speak at 1. I'll probably stream that. I'm not going to stay on until then. I'll probably leave and come back. I'm going over to Bloomberg.
Fire by 8 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time.
Well, I think that from a political perspective, everybody needs to be able to come forward and do that. From a military objectives perspective, I agree with the assessment that not a whole lot is actually gained by that. You're pretty much saying the U.S. takes their foot off the gas in terms of all the strikes that they have done. And over the weekend, as you saw, Iran was actually able to show some of the vulnerability to close air support assets with the Apache, with the F-15, as well as as well as some of the other close air access, the A-10s. So that actually shows right now that anybody who's coming to a military side of the house says, no, I need to actually double down and achieve more of those military objectives. The problem is that the rest of the world is looking for anything that's going to allow some level of a release valve. And you saw that a couple times, even during the Iran-Israel 12-day war, when they came for a ceasefire. They needed to be able to take that time so that behind the scenes they could reach what they wanted to reach.
Yeah. Colonel, there was a report from Israel which it said that Iran still had more than 1,000 missiles that could threaten it.
Probably.
What do we understand about the capabilities of Iran to enact that type of pain with this continued missiles, cheap drones that they've had at their disposal?
I think they're highly exaggerated.
Their drone stockpile is still significant, right? The Shahed 136 is one of the most long-range and effective ones that you've seen actually take a lot of the Gulf states right now. A lot of them have been targeted with the drones. Their missile capability has been severely weakened, but depending on where you're looking at the numbers, yeah, you can see up to almost 1,000 there. Hezbollah claims thousands of short-range missiles as well. So when you start looking at the proxies, so there's always going to be a continued threat for that. A lot of the launchers have been damaged, so their ability to actually volley those things at scale becomes an issue. But right now you've seen a lot of Iran be able to do stuff with just 1 or 2 targets at a time. They don't have to launch a lot. They just have to be able to strike their targets.
Well, when it comes to the proxies, Colonel, this is something that Israeli forces and American forces had said that in past conflicts, they significantly weakened them. Is that the case this time around? Is Hezbollah, as they have these tens of thousands of rockets to use, are they weakened at this point?
I think the number of folks that they have to actually do this, yes, absolutely. The number of hostiles that are involved, yes. The number of infrastructure compared to where they used to be, yes. I think people didn't quite understand exactly how large the proxy force threat around the world was. That's actually been getting mitigated over the past 10 years or so. And you're actually seeing a lot of that come from the proxies now. I actually expected a lot more proxy involvement earlier on. You've seen some of it on the non-kinetic side. You've seen proxies try after cyber attacks and others as well. But,
they're trying.
As this continues to go on, it ends up being another lever that Iran can pull and still provide some level of plausible deniability.
Colonel Sanders, I spent a lot of the weekend trying to figure out ways that this could end that would be palatable to both the GCC, the Gulf countries, as well as the United States and Israel. Do you see any path to creating some sort of new normal that would be palatable to the partners in the region and that would lead to some sort of permanent end to the fighting?
I think when Iran talks about compensation, when they talk about war compensation, I think there obviously has to be some level of acknowledgement that says, hey, look, we did the following things to you in Iran. And so from that perspective, we're going to give you a certain stipulation for this, whether it's monetary or in other means. There has to be a way for Iran to save face in this and say, okay, all right, we were able to inflict a certain amount of damage, not only to the Gulf states as well as to the U.S. So we need to continue to look at it as a legitimate player. The U.S. needs to be able to come back and say that we have, as President Trump keeps saying, bombed them to the Stone Age. We have effectively neutralized a majority of their missile threat and as well as their nuclear program, even if it's not handed over, that we do not believe that they're going to have the ability to produce and manufacture and enrich uranium to the level that it could be used for a nuclear weapon. For the Gulf states, I think right now you're seeing a lot of increased procurement, on air defense systems as well. So everybody, I think at that point in time is looking to make sure that they are as secure as possible moving forward against those drone threats.
How much are inventories of missiles, anti-ballistic missile inventories, as well as others that the U.S. is moving to the region? How much is that getting depleted? How much is that going to ultimately be the deciding factor of this war? Who runs out first?
I know.
I think it's a matter of
beautiful little.
I am going to go over to NASA.
Be advised, we are maneuvering for opportunistic science.
We are getting close to zipping around
you
the
would
moon.
need to configure your D5
that ought to
and
be
D9
some interesting
cameras
footage.
For that, like yesterday.
What do you think? I know the conspiracy theories abound. God, the flat Earth morons are out in full force too.
Very big moon right out of window 2 during that burn. Well, right before the burn, before we maneuvered. It was awesome.
And looks like we'll be back at window 2 for this as well.
This is Artemis Mission Control.
Yeah, that's not a real image, and we all know it, or we all should know it. That's not a real image. That's computer composite or whatever. Hey, look, do I think we actually went to the moon or leave the planet? Look, I don't like to be wrong, and there's not sufficient evidence that it's all a lie, in my opinion. There's a lot of subjective evidence, but you can't. It's just that. It's subjective. It's not objective. It's not without a doubt. And as long as there's a doubt, I just don't like to be wrong. So I'll continue to take in all the evidence, which I doubt will ever have anything sufficient enough for me to be like, oh, yeah, without a doubt. But if I had to lean in one particular direction, I fail to see the purpose in deception. Maybe I'm just naive, but I don't see the purpose in such a deception. It just seems silly to me. Besides, I want us to be a space exploring species. So do I think that there's all kinds of crazy government cover-ups and stuff like that? Oh, yeah. Do I think the government... Do I think that they wouldn't fake it? I think they absolutely would if they could. I'm just not convinced that... I'm not convinced either way, honestly. I know it's good for, you know, patriotism to believe that we were doing these things. I understand that. But I don't know, the amount of just complete leaps and bounds in acceptance of, or in guesswork that people make is beyond me. Like, I've seen some crazy extrapolations come from not that much information, and I just can't make a leap like that, you know, like there was an image of the Earth that was circulated, and there's a few people jumping on the image of the Earth and trying to place what country that was. Well, first of all, you don't know the orientation of the planet. You don't know if what you're seeing is upside down, right side up. I mean, there is no such thing in space. So, and there's just not enough information. It could be Australia. It could be the bottom of another continent. I agree. It looks odd, but it's not proof of anything. It's questionable, sure, but it's not proof of anything. And I don't know that we're going to. I don't know if we're going to see anything come of that anytime soon. I do know the flyby is supposed to be later. I'm not exactly sure of when, though. I will look into it, and we will see. I'm going to keep the audio on that one live. So as soon as something comes up, we will hear about it. But until then, I'm going to go back over to these people and continue to listen in on developments in this here war.
Saying that is probably not going to fly in Washington. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has demanded things from Iran, like the end of its missile development program, nuclear program,
good to see you
and
again,
the
bud.
end of its support of its proxies around the region. And those three things that I mentioned essentially are the entire basis of Iran's power in the region. So far, it doesn't look like diplomatic efforts by mediators are making any ground, at least not now. At the same time, Iran may also be taking Trump's threats a bit less seriously because he has issued multiple deadline
Artemis
extensions
over
before.
here, so we can pay attention
all
to
eyes
what's
are
going
on
on.
What will happen Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time to see if that changes.
Yes, the clock is ticking. Thank you so much, Natasha Tarak. We appreciate your reporting.
The bombing them back to the Stone Age, cursing them, Secretary Hegseth saying, you know, it's death from above, no mercy, no quarter. We will ignore stupid
nice
rules
to see you,
of engagement.
Arca.
This is
I remember
all
you.
embarrassing and juvenile. And it's people trying to act like they're puffed up and tough
Oh,
when
shut
what
up.
we really see from the administration in this war.
Oh, shut up. I thought it was funny. Trump was trolling people. He didn't mean what he said. Come on. He was trolling. It was hilarious. Get over it.
Wars that we're watching, and in case you missed it, I'd like to play his remarks for you. Next.
Buona Pasqua. Brothers and sisters, Christ is risen.
It's the frickin' Pope.
Da secoli la Chiesa canta con esultanza l'avvenimento che origine.
For centuries, the Church has joyfully sung of the event that is the origin and foundation of her faith. Yes, Christ my hope is arisen. Christ indeed from death is risen. Have mercy, Victor King, ever reigning. Easter is the victory of life over death, of light over darkness, of love over hatred. It is a victory that came at a very high price. Christ, the Son of the living God, had to die, and die on a cross. After suffering an unjust condemnation, being mocked and tortured, and shedding all his blood.
Yeah, I streamed the Vatican.
As the true immolated lamb, he took upon himself the sin of the world, and thus freed us all, and with us all creation from the dominion of evil. But how was Jesus able to be victorious? What is the strength with which he defeated once and for all the ancient adversary, the prince of this world? What is the power with which he rose from the dead, not returning to his former life, but entering into eternal life, and thus opening in his own flesh the passage from this world to the Father?
Questa forza, questa potenza è Dio stesso, amore che crea e genera.
This strength, this power is God himself, for he is love who creates and generates. Love, who is faithful to the end, and love who forgives and redeems. Christ, our victorious King, fought and won his battle through trusting abandonment to the Father's will, to his plan of salvation. Thus he walked the path of dialogue to the very end, not in words but in deeds. To find us who were lost, he became flesh. To free us who were slaves, he became a slave. To give life to us mortals, he allowed himself to be killed on a cross.
La forza con cui Cristo è risorto è totalmente non violenta.
The power with which Christ rose is entirely non-violent. It is like that of a grain of wheat, which having rotted in the earth, grows, breaks through the clods, sprouts, and becomes a golden ear of wheat. It is even more like that of a human heart, which, wounded by an offense, rejects the instinct for revenge, and filled with compassion, prays for the one who has committed the offense. Brothers and sisters, this is the true strength that brings peace to humanity.
He's not
because
wrong.
It fosters respectful relationships at every level among
nice
individuals,
to meet you, Azka Arka.
families, social groups, and nations.
How is life in Indonesia?
It does not seek private interests, but the common good. It does not seek to impose its own plan, but to help design and carry out a plan together with others.
How is life in Indonesia, my friend?
Yes, Christ's resurrection is the beginning of a new humanity. It is the entrance into the true promised land, where justice, freedom, and peace reign, where all recognize one another as brothers and sisters, children of the same Father, who is love, life, and light. Brothers and sisters, through his resurrection, the Lord confronts us even more powerfully with the dramatic reality of our freedom. Before the empty tomb, we can be filled with hope and wonder, like the disciples, or with fear like the guards and the Pharisees, forced to resort to lies and subterfuge, rather than acknowledge that the one who had been condemned is truly risen.
Lasciamoci stupire da Cristo.
In the light of Easter, let us allow ourselves to be amazed by Christ. Let us allow our hearts to be transformed by his immense love for us. Let those who have weapons lay them down.
That would be nice.
Let those who have the power to unleash wars choose peace.
That would be nice.
Not a peace imposed by force, but through dialogue.
That
not
has
with
proven
the desire
to
to
not
dominate
work.
others, but to encounter them.
Abituando alla violenza, ci rassegniamo ad essa e diventiamo indifferenti.
Azka Arka, I do not understand what you typed.
To it and becoming indifferent.
I am a stupid American. I do not know this language.
Hatred and division that conflicts sow. Indifferent to the economic and social consequences they produce, which we all feel. There is an ever-increasing globalization of indifference, to borrow an expression dear to Pope Francis, who 1 year ago from this loggia addressed his final words to the world, reminding us what a great thirst for death, for killing, we witness each day in the many conflicts raging in different parts of the world.
Yep, there it is.
The cross of Christ always reminds us of the suffering and pain that surround death and the agony it entails.
E per paura ci voltiamo dall'altra parte. Preferiamo non guardare. Non possiamo continuare ad essere indifferenti.
We are all afraid of death, and out of fear we turn away, preferring not to look. We cannot continue to be indifferent. We cannot resign ourselves to evil. St. Augustine teaches, if you fear death, love the resurrection.
I recognize Bali. Is that where you're from? Bali?
It's not the last word, because it has been defeated by the risen one.
Sorry, as much as I love his words.
A global citizen. I am a citizen of the United States of America.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important distinction, and therefore, of course, we all on this program, too, are very proud of our military, but also it's not just the military, it's our commander-in-chief
Deception
leading the military.
campaign.
They don't operate in a
did.
vacuum, so I have to give President Trump and Secretary Hegseth a lot of credit for pulling off this mission, as well as Israel and the Iranian people. I do want to turn to this, though, Cheryl, with respect to DHS and what we're seeing. Congress is still on recess. They are still on spring break here. Do you think that we will ultimately get DHS funded to where it needs to be? Where do these negotiations stand? Because they haven't made much progress, given the fact that, yeah, they're out of office.
Yeah, this is completely a partisan fight. And I really think Democrats are losing the narrative here because Trump has issued orders to fund TSA. He has issued orders to now fund DHS, including FEMA and the Coast Guard. And he's talking about privatizing TSA at airports. Some already are. And I just think the lines at airports are going down. And really, Democrats are holding the line on this because of their far left base. And I think it's one of their greatest fundraising tools at this point. But we're headed into a new budget season, and this issue is Democrats need to step up to the plate and realize that
they do. They don't have any policies worth a damn lately. They don't have any policies at all that I know of, unless it's Trump bad. That's about all they've got, which isn't much of anything.
The sector is very likely to pull back, but we are recommending to lean into the sector on pullbacks because these are structurally better companies. So we talked about a structurally higher geopolitical premium going forward, but these are structurally better companies as well with a better balance sheets,
Iran is in crisis.
Very strong execution and ability to return cash through the cycle.
The Islamic Republic of Iran, they are in crisis. The people of Iran will be liberated if we get rid of the Islamic Republic, because they're nothing but trouble.
The Israeli Defense Forces saying that they struck the biggest petrochemical facility in Iran. This, according to the Israel Defense Minister, Israel Katz. This comes after a previous hit on another petrochemical facility. Those together are responsible for 85% of petrochemical exports from Iran. Neither of them are functioning. Again, hitting a lot of targets as we discuss whether there will be a ceasefire agreed upon, with a real question around, are these being used for military use? Is this something that is a financial issue? Some questions around this.
And it's always this strange thing of coming out of the weekend where war escalation threats are issued by the president. There are more attacks from Iran on Gulf neighbors, in this case, Israel, in a petrochemical facility. And stocks are rallying, again, on this hope that a ceasefire is going to be reached. But on the ground,
I doubt it.
There are still attacks happening. There is still escalation. It's still only a few ships that are making it through the Strait of Hormuz. There is optimism in this market, very tepid. even though the reality on the ground still feels very different than anywhere of getting
I'm sorry to
towards
hear
some
that,
sort of reconciliation and some sort of ceasefire.
We'll keep tracking this and bring you the latest headlines. Right now, let's get you an update on story.
Anybody who's watching, one of my viewers on YouTube just said that his father died. So if everyone could keep him in your thoughts and prayers, I'm sure Azka Arka would appreciate it. I'm sorry to hear that about your father, my friend. That's never, it's never an easy thing. My father passed away in 2014. I was just taking a moment of silence for you, buddy. I'm sorry to hear that.
And the Artemis 2 astronauts are expected to complete a record-breaking lunar flyby today. According to NASA, the crew of the Orion spacecraft will break the record for maximum distance from Earth set by Apollo 13. That's Bloomberg Brief. Lisa.
Thank you so much, Yahaira. Up next, inflation risk in focus.
The risk is that we will continue to see inflation stay higher for longer, and because of that, rates are likely to also going to stay higher for longer. The market is not expecting that rates are going to come down anytime soon.
Kurt Ryman of UBS joining next as we see yields inflecting just a touch higher ahead of that key economic data. We get, of course, personal income spending.
Hey, listen to this talk.
I believe that they intend their arguments to be taken seriously. I think it's just an effort to gin up their base, which already has a substantial amount of animosity toward the president.
Have a good day, Azka Arka.
25th Amendment. And
Stay strong, my friend. You will be okay. Blessings. Take care.
A vote of 150 million people. Nevertheless, it's never been tried. It's never been tested in the court. It requires the vice president and a majority of the cabinet. If the vice president doesn't go along with this, it doesn't matter if the entire cabinet wants to do it. So there's really no basis to do this. Look, they may not like the president, I get it. They may not like the words he uses, I get it. They may not like the war, I get it. But this is not a time to dislodge the president from his authority, nor is there any reasonable expectation that it will fail. Could you imagine J.D. Vance secretly talking to members of the cabinet? Hey, Pete, it's time for Donald to go. I mean, these things are just not realistic.
It's not.
Well, thank you, Judge, for outlining that for us, because I think when we hear the 25th Amendment being thrown around, we don't truly understand how it is going to play out. And I think also the Democrats, maybe they don't even fully understand, because if they were to do this, it would set such a horrible precedent for the future that realistically, you know, they would be maybe even misusing the law to get, as you said, what they can't accomplish at the ballot box.
Right, right. I mean, and when you make the comparison...
You know, I know the argument is that Trump is using the justice system to, you know, for retribution, to go after his political enemies. Well, you know, before he was president, everybody loved Donald Trump for the most part. Nobody called him a racist. Nobody said anything hardly negative about him. There were some, to be fair, okay? There was some. But not like it is now. And they tried everything they could to put that damn near 80-year-old man in jail. For what? What did they get that stuck? And, yeah, weaponizing the Justice Department, he's not going after his political rivals. He's going after those who tried to put him in jail for nothing. Now, it can be debated all day of the legitimacy of any of those claims, and that's not what I aim to do. What I'm saying is in our current system, he was not found guilty of anything, which means that you don't just keep going. I don't know the words I need for this, but I'm in no position to claim whether or not the man is completely innocent of everything. But in our system, in our justice system, he was exonerated 1,000 times. And even even NBC and ABC or CBS, two of those big news organizations came out and flat out said that there was nothing nefarious in the Epstein files about Trump. these are the people that tend to go after him pretty hard. So either they're compromised, or, yeah, I mean, to me, it just seems logical to assume that, you know, all of this is just more political show. You know, like, there was a lot of names on those lists. And to be fair, Epstein had his hands in all kinds of stuff. He hung out with all sorts of people, a lot of powerful people. But not everything the man did could be connected to the really bad shit that he did. I mean, he was involved in fundraising. He was involved in a little bit of politics. He was involved in this, involved in that. And just because there's a name on a flight log doesn't mean that they're guilty of anything. Now, it's been proven time and time again that Trump was an informant to the FBI. Turned him in, right? Turned Epstein in. It's very well established that Epstein gathered blackmail on the people he associated with for obvious reasons, right? And is it any surprise that the one person who's mentioned the most happens to be the guy that turned him in? Come on. It screams obvious to me. And then what always happens in America when somebody runs their mouth too much or they get a little too close to the truth? Boom, sexual harassment, boom, rape, something like that. Every time. And half the time it doesn't stick. Not because these people worm their way out of it, but because it was probably BS. I mean, look at Russell Brand. Russell Brand, for God's sake. He got a little too close to the Jew talk about Jewish people, and boom, sexual harassment cases popped up. Imagine that. Of course, it didn't stick. It was only meant to ruin his reputation. My point is they threw everything they could at Trump, and nothing could stick. Teflon Don. The people he's going out after the people he's going after now. Yeah, he's going after people who sought to put his 80-year-old ass in jail. But that's not his political enemies. That's not the way the justice system was used against him. Anyway, I digress.
Thanks, Judge. We will be watching this case very closely. As always, appreciate your insights this morning. Judge Napolitano, thank you.
They're going to try.
Stay tuned. More First Edition straight ahead.
Our crime correspondent Jason Matera joins us next.
Oh, they're going to try. They're going to try and get this guy out. Good morning, Shabham. How are you? Where are you from?
Consumer spending should continue to see strong tailwinds.
Here's the latest. Investors awaiting key inflation data this week as the strong March payrolls report dims hopes for a Fed rate cut. Kurt Ryman of UBS writing, we recently upgraded U.S. Treasuries to attractive after yields had already risen, focusing exposure on short to medium-term maturities to limit exposure to interest rate risk. Kurt joins us now.
Nice to meet you.
Kurt,
thank you
wonderful
for coming.
to see you. Thank you for being here. I'm smiling because that's what everyone says. You know, opportunities have been created at the front end, at the medium end. No one wants to venture into that 10-year or 30-year yield. Why is that so uncertain, even with the opportunity that's been unlocked, to use the parlance of Wall Street?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just this concern about too high debt loads and the concern about inflation potentially, you know, creeping into the back end. That's the reason why we want to stay a little bit short on the rate curve, because if there is a continued further rise in rate risk, then that could end up posing some downdraft to the Treasury's exposure. But then I'd also say, why go out to 10 years if you can get 90% of the yield in a 5-year note? I mean, this is a curve that's giving you the yield that you need as we're dealing with these geopolitical risks, when a few years ago that wasn't the case. So we're just going to stay a little bit shorter on the curve. We like this opportunity. If rates rise in the front to intermediate part of the curve, you got a lot of protection before you're going to start losing money.
Do you think that's an option, that potentially the Fed would be forced to not necessarily hike rates, but even put a hike on the table to signal to markets that they were actually serious, maybe someday, perhaps, of getting inflation back down to 2%?
I think the inflation data would have to get a lot more menacing than what we've seen and what we would even expect to see with the oil price move so far. It's not out. It's a big question mark, just how long this lasts. Nobody knows. But I would just say that the Fed, it seems right now, is in this wait and see mode. It's not going to necessarily pull in one direction or the other. Our view towards the end of the year is that we'll see the Fed move to another rate cut. But this is predicated on the idea of better productivity and that this is a short-lasting hit to oil prices that eventually comes down. Also, the labor market is key here. And we saw Friday's jobs numbers wasn't exactly giving the signal that a rate cut is imminent when you've got this kind of job growth and the unemployment rate moving down. So we'd have to see some weakness start to emerge, look at that unemployment rate for an indicator. But for right now, I think the Fed is just content to hold where they are.
I have NASA with the volume up just in case. I don't remember what time they said they're going to be doing the flyby of the moon, but I've got it over here on the far left under the QR code. In case they do, because I'd like to catch it live. And I've got CBS News. You know, the people that Trump sued and got paid by.
He said, we're finishing the job 1 minute, and then he said, we'll hit them extremely hard for the next 2 to 3 weeks and then bomb them back to the Stone Ages the next. I think that left a lot of people uneasy, including many Republicans. So I'll say strong action against a real threat is one thing, and I agree with that, but endless escalation without a clear off-ramp just fuels the very chaos that so many Republicans wanted to stop.
Right, and we just saw some recent polling.
Trump basically issued an executive order to attack your ability to vote by mail. And of course, the reality is that he goes down to his resort at Mar-a-Lago and does what? He votes by mail.
Yeah, you know what? It's okay because he's a legal citizen. Bitch.
Your power. And he is afraid of losing the midterm.
That's stupid.
So, Joel, a lot of attention was put on that EO, but the state of democracy isn't as important to Americans as their own pocketbooks and the economy. So should Harris and other Democrats largely focus on the economy at this Friday's event, or does that democracy message still stick?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by, what we are careening into, which is the 2028 presidential cycle. It's already coming to us, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this, not just from Vice President Harris, but from scores of other Democrats.
Oh, yeah, of course you're going to, because no Democrat has any policy position. All they've got is Trump bad, grr. That's all they got. When's the last time you heard a damn policy being put forth by any Democrat at all? Nothing. Mainly because Trump took all of that. He took all the single issue voters. He went after those small demographics. That's how you win an election. That's why he won. Have a good day.
Records. Pooh Shiesty himself, what a name, by the way. He was apparently wearing an ankle monitor at the time of the alleged attack. He was on house arrest over a previous firearms conviction. In fact, it's believed that he was on the phone with his parole officer right before this alleged kidnapping went down. So basically, the guy helped investigators track himself, right? He might be a talented rapper, perhaps. I don't know. But he definitely doesn't appear to be a criminal mastermind.
Yeah.
I really
doesn't appear to be a brilliant man, does he?
But you know what?
That's
it sounds like a
hilarious.
made-up story, but it's
real.
It's completely real. And you know what? As you were giving your report, I said, you know what? That's the problem.
Yeah, idiots. I agree.
It's courtesy of NASA because we are still tracking everything having to do with the Artemis II mission toward the moon, at least. It says this: we're going farther than ever before. Today, the Artemis II crew will break the record for how far humans have traveled from Earth as they fly around the far side of the moon. I also want to bring up this. It's a schedule and a timeline, so to speak, of this Artemis 2 flyby later on today. And also we have some live images here, live or playback, not entirely sure, but these images are courtesy of NASA because they're tracking everything having to do with this mission as a whole. So there on the left-hand side, you see that at 9:50 a.m. Eastern time, Artemis 2 crew wakes up. 1 p.m. Eastern time, NASA begins coverage of that flyby. We will take it here, so you can tune in to live now if you want to watch it in full. 1:56 p.m. Eastern time, Artemis 2 breaks the distance record set by Apollo 13. To 10 p.m. Eastern time, Artemis 2 crew speaks on Apollo 13 record, and 2:45 p.m. Eastern time, the 7-hour observation period for the moon flyby begins. So this is timed down to the minute. Of course, it has to be very precise, but joining us now to talk a little bit more about this mission and what we can expect is Amber Trujillo. She is a spokesperson for the Planetary Society. And Amber, you actually joined me right before this mission.
Okay, so at 1 p.m. today, we're going to hear from the Artemis crew. And I think it said at 9 p.m. tonight, we're going to hear from Trump. You can expect me to be on for that. I'm not so much the Artemis. I'm not sure that I'm going to be on for that at 1 p.m. I may be, but I'm not entirely sure. I have 2 whole cigarettes left, and I'm about to go smoke one of them. So I'm going to leave on, God, I hate to leave you with that woman. Ugh. Doesn't, she's cute, but doesn't look like anything I would want to be stuck with. I'm going to leave Bloomberg on, and I shall return. I'm not going to be gone as long as I usually am. Pre-market is about to begin. And here's Bloomberg. I'll be right back.
On Bitcoin that's been happening after 1010. It's just a change of who's holding Bitcoin, and you're moving from people who had long-term belief and were holding Bitcoin directly to just access to Bitcoin being wired up to our financial system and markets in ways that didn't happen before. So the combination of what happened on 1010 plus the mix shift change of who's holding changes the dynamic of price action. This is not a short-term market play. You have to have long-term belief and vision, and I think that for those people who have that long-term belief, they'll be fine.
Don't miss the next Bloomberg Crypto.
When it matters, investors turn to Bloomberg surveillance.
I said it maybe even on your show here.
I hear you guys talking about this a lot.
Our investors are really thoughtful. They're engaged. They listen to your show.
As a number of people you've had on your show have mentioned.
The 3 of us have talked about it on this show many times.
I think you find, and you've heard this on your show. We've already talked this morning on your show, as you know, and you cover every day on Bloomberg.
You've heard a lot of guests talk about that.
I think your show is incredible.
Bloomberg surveillance. We're talking about it.
Control room here at the Johnson Space Center. We are coming to you live with 24/7 continuous coverage of the Artemis 2 mission.
Markets,
The
economics,
Artemis
tech,
2
and
crew is
climate.
in their
More than what
sleep
you need to
period.
know. It's what you
right
need
now,
to think
aboard
about.
Orion, named Integrity. The crew will be waking up in just under 2 hours.
Trying
and
to
49
parse out
minutes
what's
and
happening is
counting.
increasingly difficult, and the market is obviously not necessarily buying that.
The markets are still, I think, underestimating that risk.
I think there is some positive momentum.
We aren't broad sellers of U.S. equities here.
Potential inflation re-acceleration in the second half of the year is the biggest risk to the equity.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance with Jonathan Farrow, Lisa Abramowitz, and Anne-Marie Hordern.
Good morning. Welcome back to the third hour of Bloomberg Surveillance. Traders trying to sound an optimistic tone after a long weekend. With futures trying to build on last week's gains, but fading throughout the morning, coming into another week of ultimatums, with 36 hours until a new deadline set by President Trump to reach a deal. Focus now turning from jobs to inflation, with some key economic data on deck later this week. We have PCE and jobless claims coming on Thursday, along with personal income and personal spending on Friday. We get CPI data. John Farrow, Anne-Marie Hordern, both of them are off today and for much of the week, but we are very lucky to have Danny Berger in the seat. Danny, a real question around how much some of the inflation-related data will change the discussion around the effects of the war.
And we are expecting to get a pickup that would be the biggest since 2022. The conversation for these markets has just been the headline roulette, the ping pong, the back and forth, the extension, Iran saying that they would not agree to a ceasefire, what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. We have yet to see that fully realized through the economic data because the ones we've gotten thus far have been stale. So what difference does it make to finally get some March numbers and company earnings? What are they going to say about what they're seeing from the consumer, about what their supply chains look like, what their logistics costs look like, and how they're able to weather this?
We have heard some preliminary discussions from Delta, from American Airlines, talking about how bookings have been incredibly robust. Consumers still want to spend. We're seeing deals get done in abundance. We're seeing a record month for the month of March in terms of corporate bond issuance. If you take a look at capital markets, it doesn't feel like caution. Last week, we had the biggest rally in high-yield bonds going back to late last year. This is a market wide open.
And all of the debt that's been issued by these AI spenders, despite all those fears too, there's so much demand of it. There is so much money that wants to get put to work. By the way, just on the note of airlines, I feel like that's telling in itself that they're doing so well, not only because of higher prices, but airports are an absolute mess right now, and people are still traveling.
Yeah.
People are going and waiting in the 4-hour lines.
It's true. It's sort of like, I wouldn't want to go to the club because it's too crowded. Nobody goes there anymore. The sort of Yogi Berra expression. At the same time, you wonder how much that's changing in real time, given when you take a look. Have you booked a flight recently, a domestic flight, and seen how low the prices have actually gotten? So clearly it does seem like there is an incentive to get people on board.
Yeah, there definitely is, but not for the international flights, not for the high-paying ones. And this is what matters most to these airlines, too. It's the business class flights, it's international, and those have looked very robust.
Meanwhile, we are looking at markets that are trying to feel positive. Coming up this hour, Matt Miskin of Manulife with stocks searching for direction a bit following a winning week. Jason Thomas of Carlisle saying the fundamentals in private credit remain strong, and Kathy Bostancic of Nationwide looking ahead to this week's inflation data. We begin this hour with stocks edging a bit higher on renewed optimism over a potential ceasefire in Iran. Matt Miskin of Manulife, John Hancock, writing equity markets are still signaling risk on. The markets have yet to price in any meaningful economic slowdown from a potential energy supply disruption. Matt joins us now. Matt, wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for being with us. So this has sort of been the push-pull. At what point do expectations for some sort of growth hit start to triumph over robust capital markets activity and pretty good economic data heading into this?
Yeah, I think, Lisa, the markets are waiting for the whites of the eyes of any economic slowdown and really wants to see the data before getting whipsawed. And really, these markets have been trained to be dip buyers, to be really risk on. What we're hearing more so is panic buying more than panic selling. So that's still the kind of sentiment that's out there. And if you think about it, traders have been, taught this. This time last year, we had a 20% drawdown on a geopolitical event, and it was a great buying opportunity. Investors got rewarded for that. And I think investors are looking for these dips to really look to add to equities here.
What gives you confidence that allows you to lean against that, right? I mean, how do you lean against that given the fact that earnings also are increasing in terms of expectations, and that has been the winning trade in the past?
Yeah, so a lot of it is priced in, and that's what we're struggling with is, right now the earnings estimates just keep going up, and they almost look just unlikely to be able to be hit at this point. It's like the high jump where the bar just keeps going up and you have to try to jump over this thing. It's going to be, right now, the Street is looking for 17% earnings growth for the S&P 500. And this isn't just the United States. It's everywhere in the world. Every company around the world is forecasted to see massive earnings growth in 2026. And we're sitting here saying, look, yeah, if we could do mid-single digits, high single-digit earnings growth, great. But those estimates look rich to us. In our view, equities still, if you kind of back out those massive earnings growth, they're actually pretty heavily or richly valued amidst all this. In our view, income and alternative investments are a bigger part of options now to portfolios and things to look at to add amidst this volatility.
Matt, A lot has been said of we're all oil traders now, that the direction of risk markets and cross-asset, it's being dominated largely by oil. You make the argument, though, that beyond oil, the more important asset to be watching is the U.S. dollar. After a dollar that strengthened through March, one of its best months in about 4 or 5, why is this the most important driver for markets right now?
Yeah, it's twofold. For all U.S. investors, going international has been awesome in the last year. And really, it's been a weaker dollar trade. This whole dollar denominator, like the dollar is going to fall off, the dollar debasement trade was the most powerful trade last year. And gold, silver, and non-U.S. equities all loved it. And really, if the dollar breaks out, and every day I'm just sitting here watching tick for tick the currency markets. And the currency markets are massive relative to everything else. But the dollar keeps getting crushed right around 100 on the DXY index. We're right there going into the week. This week is going to be pivotal for the oil market and the currency market. And if you can see oil reverse down, we think the dollar goes down, and that's more risk on. But if the dollar breaks out here, the whole dollar debasement trade, gold, silver, non-U.S. equities are at risk. In our view, we would pivot more into U.S., look for good quality companies that are cheaper valuations. Right now, we're seeing that more in mid-caps and more infrastructure-related equities to play some defense on a dollar breakout scenario.
Does that also change the attractiveness of the larger cap companies, the multinational companies, as we head into earnings season, Matt?
As we've seen throughout
exactly, Danny. And we were just saying that, look, earnings estimates are about as good as it gets right now. So any weakness that can filter into the markets could be a headwind to these awesome earnings estimates. And the dollar's a big part of that. So 40% of S&P 500 revenues are denominated, or they're sourced abroad. And so if you have a weaker currency outside the United States, your currency's, if the currencies have strengthened abroad and your currency weakens, then you get better foreign revenues. That's almost just the company doesn't have to do anything, it just helps. A weaker dollar is hugely beneficial to corporate revenues, corporate earnings, and really that's been the story of last year. This year, and if you think about the presidential cycle, we're going into 2018 similar to the 2016 to 2019 kind of throwback or flashback, and that was a stronger dollar period. So we've got to watch that closely for earnings results too.
Matt, how important are this week's inflation data going to be for you, given the sense that is one of the key questions, how much consumer prices are heading up?
Well, what we're hearing, Lisa, is not just oil. In the last, we're hearing the streaming services are raising prices. And it's like, that's not because of higher oil prices. Delivery companies, Amazon even has just increased a tax, if you will, or an increase based on the higher oil prices. But we would look at higher oil prices as a tax, not as much of an inflationary event. I get it. The headline CPI is going to feel it because of higher gas prices. But what everybody missed last year in terms of the tariffs was the one thing that goes up can make other things go down, because consumers can't just use all that capital to spend across the board. Things last week that actually made us relatively positive on the inflation backdrop. Housing prices year over year declined, or they were still positive, but only by 1% year over year, which is the lowest reading as of late. Wage growth, non-existent. It was actually 3.5% in that really good jobs report. But if you lack a wage growth, relatively weak housing price growth, and without that wage growth, higher gas prices, that's just going to decrease your real spending power. In our view, that makes the Fed more likely to tilt to the dovish side by the end of the year than the hawkish side. And inflation might not be as bad as feared, all things considered.
The bull case for bonds. Matt Miskin of Manulife John Hancock Investments. Thank you so much for being with us as we begin a new week. Right now, let's get you an update on stories elsewhere. Here is your Bloomberg Brief with Yahara.
Hi, Lisa. Iran's foreign ministry saying no rational person would agree to a ceasefire because it means creating a short pause to regroup and commit crime again. The comments coming after Axios reported the U.S., Iran, and a group of regional mediators are reportedly discussing terms for a possible 45-day ceasefire. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi says she's looking to hold talks with Iran's leader before President Trump's latest deadline. Japan has a key interest in maintaining a working relationship with Iran. The country secures 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Hedge funds turning bullish on wheat for the first time in 4 years. Long positions on Chicago wheat outnumbering short contracts by over 8,500 in the last week of March. Hedge funds are betting on higher prices due to dry weather and fertilizer shortages. That's Bloomberg Brief. Lisa.
Thank you so much, Ira. Up next, the morning calls, plus Jason Thomas of Carlisle, saying the fundamentals in private credit remain strong and talking about what the backdrop is for inflation. That's coming up next. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Thank you, Integrity. A lot of gratitude for that message down here, and it's wonderful to see Jeremy get that pin. So thank you for sharing with us.
Inside the cabin, spacecraft, or the crew is preparing the spacecraft for the OX suit demo. Orion Crew Survival Systems suit. That's what OX stands for. Today they will be donning their suits or getting into those suits. 2 will be doing so rapidly, and 2 will be doing so at a rapid pace. These suits are what the crew members wear during launch and re-entry. It's also what would protect them in the event of a depressurization in the spacecraft. These Orion Crew Survival System suits would keep the crew member wearing it in a breathable atmosphere for up to 6 days if Orion were to depressurize. Now,
I see they're back talking about this Orion.
So the first time we've gotten the opportunity to test
Artemis.
out these suits. So after they put on the suits, they will pressurize them, and then they will install their seats. They uninstalled their seats following arrival in their high Earth orbit. And with these suits being pressurized, that seat install would be a little more difficult.
Jenny, we are ready for the position to latch the leg assemblies onto the seat backs for 1 and 2.
For both seats 1 and 2, you're looking for the seat pan position. You will be putting the pit pins in position 3 and 7 for both seats.
Pre-market looking like a mixed bag. So apparently the Artemis crew just recently woke up.
James, we are nearing the time of having y'all go off board so that we can get into our suits. Just wanted to check in with you on timing or anything else you've noted that you want to share before we get into that.
Thanks for letting us know, Christina. That syncs with everything that we've been tracking. We just want to update you that we don't believe that we will do any objectives at the lower pressure, so at 3.7 PSID at your suit delta pressure. And we're also looking at adjusting the objectives during the first set as well. So we'll continue to talk about that. And in the meantime, you're go to continue.
Doesn't seem to be much news going on, but I am keeping a vigilant eye on it. Everybody seems like they're in commercial right now. Schwab's in commercial. Bloomberg, Fox. Looks like even Yahoo is on commercial. They all go to commercial at the same time, it seems. I think that's a testament to the lack of news. I think everybody's kind of waiting with bated breath on Donaldo Trumpo to speak tonight. And there's no economic data coming out today. Durable goods.
Copy. Rapid dawn complete. Seats 1 and 2. Thank you.
Consumer credit comes out tomorrow. The March FOMC meeting minutes comes out Wednesday.
As part of this test, we have vented some of the cabin pressure overboard. It is now 11.0 psi inside the cabin. Again, today we are conducting a demonstration of these crew survival system suits. Now that the suits are pressurized, it can be more difficult for the astronauts to maneuver about the cabin.
You think?
They are obviously also connected to umbilicals, which make another hurdle into moving around the spacecraft. The crew will soon be moving into their midday meal period. And then later this afternoon, having the OTC 3 burn. That's Outbound Trajectory Correction 3. We did cancel OTCs 1 and 2. These small outbound trajectory correction burns help keep us on the proper trajectory for our lunar flyby and our return to Earth.
Donaldo
Integrity,
Trumpo.
we have you the same. Please execute procedure 2.1.0. Cabin leak suspected. We need to get the cabin pressure control to maintenance.
Cabin leak,
will perform a cabin O2 introduction.
Well, that's not good.
Again, we are working on getting the crew audio back into the broadcast, but you heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons, CSA astronaut and Artemis 2 backup, communicating with the crew some of our recent changes on the spacecraft.
They just said there was a pressure leak?
As we went into the LOS with the crew, that loss of signal, which we were expecting, we also noticed a cabin fan change, which caused a cabin leak suspect warning. There was no cabin leak. We needed to mode back to a maintenance option and reintroduce oxygen into the cabin.
Das ist gut, ja.
All right, Jenny. The moon is decidedly large out the window today. We can see all of Apollo, all of Oriental, annular ring. We can see, I'm 99% sure, see Pirazo very easily, and just getting over. Can't quite pick up Vavilov yet, but that far side that is right on the limb is extremely mountainous. Try to get some pictures, but it's a high grazing angle. But it's pretty awesome to just look out and see all of these sites, and it's bright, but very visible with the naked eye. Still primarily seeing whites, grays. Maybe I can convince myself on the far side there's some just hues of brown, very light, very, very faint. But it's a great view. It's beautiful. And on the near side, Aristarchus is by far the most prominent feature. It is really just glowing bright right now.
That's beautiful, Reed. Thanks for bringing us all up there with you.
And for the science team, Pirazo and Aristarchus have the same albedo level right now. They're the same level of brightness. And then looking down, Copernicus is just a little bit dimmer, but it's close.
Houston integrity, just one other observation. Looking at the Terminator, it's almost a full moon from this perspective, but we got the Terminator on the western edge of the moon. About 1 Oriental diameter from Oriental, and just with our plain eyes, you can really start to see topography. There is elevation on the moon, not just variation in color, and that already makes the moon look wildly different.
Sure does.
Houston integrity confirming your go, no-go for this burn.
Integrity Houston, MCC has pulled go for the burn.
Integrity copies.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We just heard confirmation there that the team here in Mission Control has pulled go for the upcoming outbound trajectory correction burn 3. This burn expected to take place in about 26 minutes from now, and it will be an approximately 19-second burn using the auxiliary engines on the Orion spacecraft. There were previously 2 other outbound trajectory correction burns on flight days 3 and 4 that ended up being canceled as it was determined they were no longer needed due to the accuracy of the translunar injection burn on flight day 2. However, the team decided to go ahead and execute this outbound trajectory correction burn 3 today on flight day 5, to ensure an accurate trajectory as the spacecraft begins to make its way around the moon and back to Earth to minimize further larger trajectory corrections that may be needed on the return journey.
Integrity Houston, maneuver to burn attitude starting in about 3 minutes. Integrity Houston, we're in burn attitude.
We see the same.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We just heard that confirmation called up to the crew on board the Orion spacecraft that the spacecraft has maneuvered to the correct burn attitude in preparation for the upcoming outbound trajectory correction 3 burn scheduled to take place in about 5 minutes from now.
Oh, cool. Good timing.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We are now seeing a live view of the Orion spacecraft, the exterior of the spacecraft, as we are about 2 minutes out from the upcoming outbound trajectory correction 3 burn. That burn is expected to last about 19 seconds, taking place around 10:03 p.m. Central, 11:03 p.m. Eastern Time. This burn will fine-tune the trajectory of the Orion spacecraft to ensure it stays on target for its journey around the moon and back.
I will likely not be on at
This
11
is Artemis
Eastern Time,
we
but
are about 30 seconds away from the
I'm not
ignition
sure yet.
for the outbound trajectory correction burn. That is when the auxiliary thrusters on the Orion spacecraft service module will begin firing to complete the outbound trajectory correction burn and fine-tune its trajectory.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to be on at 11 when they do all this, but I will be here tonight for when Trump speaks. He's supposed to speak around 9 p.m.
And we have confirmation that that outbound trajectory correction burn is now underway.
Which is an hour after his deadline expires that he gave Iran. So I am hoping he has some kind of announcement of what we're going to do. Something.
And we now have confirmation that that burn has completed. Again, that was an approximately 19-second burn using the auxiliary thrusters on the Orion spacecraft service module. That burn completed at 10:03 p.m. Central Time, 11:03 p.m. Eastern Time, to further fine-tune the Orion spacecraft's trajectory as it continues to make its way around the moon, and it was a good burn.
Integrity Houston, good burn. We are assessing the details.
Honestly, I'm sick of the whole lot of nothing that's going on when it comes to Iran. So I'm hoping that tonight.
We see the same. Thanks, Mark.
I'm hoping that tonight, when Trump speaks at 9 p.m.,
finally do a burn,
that he'll have something.
I know. A nice, beautiful little burn too.
He'll have something worthwhile to
be
say.
Advised, we are maneuvering for opportunistic science, and you would need to configure your D5 and Z9 cameras for that, like yesterday.
Because as we all know, last time Trump got on and spoke, it was a whole lot of nothing.
we are tracking and looking forward to it very much. We had a gorgeous view of a very big moon right out of window 2 during that burn. Well, right before the burn, before we maneuvered. It was awesome.
And looks like we'll be back at window 2 for this as well.
This is Artemis Mission Control. About 7 minutes ago, the Orion spacecraft executed the outbound trajectory correction 3 burn to fine-tune the trajectory of the Orion spacecraft as it continues to make its way around the moon, with that lunar flyby planned for tomorrow on flight day 6.
Oh, it's tomorrow? I thought it was
Now
today.
that outbound trajectory correction burn is complete, teams will be maneuvering the Orion spacecraft into an attitude to be able to capture some opportunistic imaging of the moon.
Is that the... Is that the Earth or the Moon in that frame? It just looks like a white speck. Why the moon gotta be white? That's racist. Yeah, so tonight at 9 p.m. Trump will speak, and we'll get to hear something from him that will allude to what's going to go on in Iran. Because as we know, tonight at 8 p.m. is when his ultimatum expires that he gave Iran. And I don't know about you, but I'm anxious to hear what the next move is. I think Trump has given them every opportunity in the world. I think he's been more than fair with Iran. In fact, I wouldn't have given them that much, but you know, he's got people to answer to. But I am definitely going to be interested to hear what he has to say. And hopefully it'll be something of substance, unlike the last time he spoke, which was a whole bunch of nothing. But that was right after Iran released some sort of propaganda, and he was visually shook. I think that derailed his mindset for the evening. So I'm hoping he speaks with a little more conviction tonight. But I will cover it at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be here probably about 15 minutes early. He was right on time last time. Usually he's late, like for everything. No, I guess most presidents are a little bit late. They got a lot going on, but yeah, he was right on time last time. So I'm going to get on a little bit early for it, just in case he decides to be on time again. And this is looking like a whole lot of meh. They're not doing their flyby until later. I will keep the sound on there, and it'll kick in every now and then. I'm going to go back to the news and see what's going on. Actually, you know what? I've got... Oh, no, I don't care about the weather right now. Let's go over to these jerks.
Game now from the first shutdown to the second shutdown. I think the American people are quite frankly tired of the shutdown.
Oh, yeah, I'm tired of hearing about it, too. They need to hurry up and fund these places, man. Everybody's using it as a bargaining chip. Oh, come on. Let's get these people their money. Taking questions from kids, eh? These are always cute.
Alors, les jeunes peuvent jouer un rôle vraiment important. En fait, c'est nécessaire que la prochaine génération contribue à notre avenir, à notre avenir. Par exemple, c'est important de juste suivre vos passions quand il y a quelque chose qui vous intéresse. Apprendre tout que c'est possible et aussi partager cet rêve, cet objectif pour vous avec des autres.
They've got nothing interesting going on. It's looking like a whole lot of nothing in the news so far. I think everybody
passed. The Republicans.
I think everybody's just waiting to hear what goes on today. I mean, it's the quiet before the storm. It's not much of a storm, but you know what I'm saying. It's the quiet. Every time there's some sort of big announcement coming, it's always preceded by a whole lot of nothing.
That's what's causing this shutdown, right? And part of what's causing the shutdown is that Donald Trump just completely abused, misused, and trashed the CBP and ICE and used them in a way that nobody's ever used them before in the history of the United States. It resulted.
So far, we've got a mixed bag on the heat map there. Looks like the tech sector's doing all right. Electronic and technology services doing all right. Everything else looking kind of like a mixed bag. Even oil is looking a little down, but relatively speaking, I mean, it's still up over $100. And the dollar doing nice and strong. Silver and gold both took a little jump. They took a jump up when the dollar came down, which is to be expected. Gold going down a little bit. Crypto in the last hour, not much of a change. The last 4 hours, same. But in the last 24 hours, there's a lot of green in the crypto space. So, yeah. Bitcoin needs to double. Badly. No idea when that's going to happen. Let's go back over to the news and see what these jerks are talking about.
Certainly we can get Pam Bondi to explain why she covered up documents, why we haven't had prosecutions.
Does Ro Khanna have a point here, Cherie?
Look, man, everybody's in those files. Everybody's in those files. You're never going to see them. They're going to dick around with this for who knows how long. You're never going to get what you want. Nobody is. It'd be nice, but it's not going to happen. Mark my words. Doesn't matter who they put in that position. As soon as they get their eyes on it, they'll understand why it can never see the light of day. Kind of like, all the important UFO files we'll never see. Because too many people on both sides of the aisle are affected by it. Come on, we all know that's the truth. People need to stop acting like it's just one side. It's people on both sides. Stop letting your party lines affect everything that you think, for Christ's sake. Be realistic. You're never gonna get them files, baby. It's never gonna happen. I guess these are the only guys with anything worthwhile going on.
It pains me to say that I think that Grant Stern and I might agree on one point. I want to hear from Pam Bondi. I want her to answer, why did she say that the list, the Epstein list, is on her desk right after taking charge? Then all of a sudden, mysteriously, can't find the list, can't do anything about it, much to the frustration of many working class Americans, not to mention MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and many others. What say you, Grant?
Well, and I don't think it has as much to do with Trump as everybody suspects. I don't think it was because of his direction at all that this is how it's been handled. I think this is one thing that people on all sides in Washington can agree on. Unfortunately, it's sad. But ultimately, I do believe that's the truth of it. Search your feelings, you know it to be true.
The church soon after. The 77-year-old monarch blowing a kiss to his grandchildren and sharing this sweet moment before making his way inside with other royals. Princess Kate's return to the beloved Easter tradition is a welcome turn of events.
She is such an anchor for the royal family.
The last time she and her family attended Easter service was back in 2023. They skipped the event in 2024 following Kate's cancer diagnosis.
I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery.
And last year, after announcing her cancer was in remission.
Doing what I can to stay cancer-free is now my focus.
They spent the holiday at their country home.
Both William and Kate have been incredibly visible since the start of the year, really. She gave herself the time that she needed.
Noticeably absent, the king's younger brother, the former Prince Andrew, and his family, including daughters Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. Back in February, Andrew was arrested and released on suspicion of misconduct in public office over his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The case remains under investigation, and Andrew has consistently denied any wrongdoing.
It's crucial that the remaining and senior working members of the royal family put on a united front at the moment.
Sunday service more like a royal homecoming for the family of five, as Will, Kate, and perhaps the most popular young royals make their way back in the spotlight.
Kate looked wonderful, but also very happy to be there and be back at the heart of the royal family with her children. We know how much family matters to her and how important it is that she's out there with them.
Royal experts say we can expect to see a lot more of William and Kate as we head into the summer, including other traditional events like the Royal Ascot and Wimbledon, as well as other public engagements. Back to
Royal Ascot.
Chanel, thank you so much. We've got more international news now. Tension is rising in Hungary after explosives were reportedly found near a gas pipeline just days before a critical election. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lubanga joins us from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Hey, Claudio.
Oh, we'll listen to it. Around the world.
Good morning, Savannah. Well, that's right. The Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, has called an emergency meeting after explosives were found in neighboring Serbia close to a pipeline that transports Russian gas to Hungary. But the opposition accused Orban of panic-mongering orchestrated by Russian advisors, as in the weeks before the explosives was found, Hungarian security experts raised the possibility of a staged operation of this kind intended to help Orban and his political party, which is trailing in polls ahead of next Sunday's elections. Let's move now to Germany, where 3 people were killed Sunday after a large tree fell on them while they were on an Easter egg hunt. The police say the dead include a 21-year-old woman and her 10-month-old daughter, who were among a group of 50 people searching Easter eggs in the woods in the north of the country, when a strong gust of wind toppled a nearly 100-foot tree, killing the 3 people and injuring several others. And let's end this tour of the world in Cambodia, where authorities unveiled a statue carved in stone commemorating, well, a popular mine-clearing rat. The rat, called Magawa, sniffed out over 100 landmines and other explosives in Cambodia during his 5-year career before he died at age 8. In 2010, he even received a gold medal for his life-saving devotion to duty. Well, according to the United Nations, this is a really serious story because landmines and other unexploded devices are an ongoing risk for more than 1 million people living in Cambodia. Savannah?
All right, Claudio, thank you so much. Well, coming up, we are in the final hours of March Madness. In just a few hours, it's Michigan versus UConn for a shot at NCAA glory. We've got a preview of all the action up next.
In the beginning, we had to make a choice. But what we didn't realize was how far we were willing to go.
Something feels different. I'm changing. I don't know if I like who I'm becoming.
You think you're some kind of hero? You're a monster.
Scammers demand payment with gift cards. Don't share codes or personal details.
Jump in my new EV with me. I found it on cars.com.
Save time creating content and generate a high-quality clone of your voice with 11 Labs. Change the way you record podcasts, voiceovers, and branded content with the #1 AI-powered voice-generating technology. Stop searching for the perfect voice and stop wasting time re-recording take after take. Try 11 Labs for free and start elevating your content today.
Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a fight looming over the next federal budget. NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us with more. Hey, Megan, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, let's kick things off with President Trump's 2027 budget request, which was released on Friday. Now, Democrats immediately slammed it, arguing that it does not help working Americans. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said in a statement that Democrats would, quote, fight this budget tooth and nail to ensure it never becomes law. Meanwhile, Senator Jeff Merkley, who's the top Democrat on the Senate Budget Committee, criticized the bill, saying it does not address tackling things like the price of gas and groceries and the national debt. Now, Republicans and Democrats, though, are ultimately going to have to negotiate on this bill as the GOP tries to push it forward. Finally, let's zero in on part of that budget, with President Trump requesting $152 million to reopen Alcatraz as a working prison. Alcatraz is now a museum, but it was previously a notorious prison for decades. Now, let's rewind for a second. A bit less than a year ago, President Trump said that he directed the administration to reopen what he called, quote, a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders.
That's
Congress
wild right
is
there.
ultimately going to have to approve that funding request in order for it to move forward. Finally, let's turn to the Supreme Court, where a spokesperson confirmed that Justice Samuel Alito fell ill during a March event in Philadelphia. The spokesperson said that the justice agreed with his security team's recommendation to see a doctor out of an abundance of caution before his 3-hour drive home. Alito was checked by a doctor and received fluids for dehydration. And according to the spokesperson, Alito was able to return home that night, and he did not miss oral arguments. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Savannah?
All right, Megan, thank you. Well, we are in the final hours of March Madness. On the women's side, the Big Dance ended in a huge victory for UCLA. Last night, the Bruins secured their first ever national championship in dominant fashion. And on the men's side,
I may just be ignorant about March Madness because I'm not a huge basketball fan, like, at all. In fact, the only sports I really care about is maybe billiards and porn. I'm kidding. But I'm not a very big sports fan.
Now, we have one more game to go on the men's side.
So that being said, I don't care what they're talking about. But I will check out the news. We're going to check out the news, baby. Pre-market's looking mostly green. Still a bit of a mixed bag.
It is the darkness that makes this morning's light so magnificent.
What?
So blindingly beautiful.
Oh.
It is all the brighter because it is so desperately needed.
Mm.
So I close my eyes this morning and I feel the sunshine. I see a bright vision of the day when heaven and earth pass away because they are one on earth as it is in heaven. When we celebrate today, this is what we celebrate. And I celebrate too. I still believe.
Good morning from
And
Mission
so I
Control
say with
Houston.
conviction,
We are at a mission elapsed
Happy
time
Easter.
of 4 days, 14 hours, and 8 minutes and counting.
And that
This
was
is
the
flight day,
message
the end of flight day 5, while the crew is currently in their sleep period. Orion is currently 23,000 miles away from the moon. And we are so excited, and I'm here with Lorelei Kirk. She is the Deputy Orion Imagery Lead, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what we're going to see today. So first off, Lorelei, welcome.
Thank you.
You must be so excited for today.
Yeah, I'm very excited for today.
We're excited to have you. Tell us a
Is
little
she
bit about
balding
what you're doing
or
for
is
the
she
mission.
shaved?
So I help coordinate the
You know, she might have had cancer or
planning,
something,
the
so-
acquisition and the dissemination of all of the imagery that you're seeing for operations, medical, engineering, outreach, and science and payload.
You pointed at me for outreach because our team manages all of the imagery that you guys are all seeing right now.
All of the PAO imagery, that's it.
Including the live views we have from our
Manages, huh?
solar array wings.
Yes, yes, all of those lovely views.
That's excellent. So you just came from the Orion MUR. What is the MUR and what console position do you sit at?
So the MUR is the Mission Evaluation Room. It's sort of the back room to the MCC. That's where all the engineers sit. That we are actually what the front room goes and asks questions for if something happens. So I sit at the imagery console, and we are constantly monitoring both what flight is saying here and then also what the manager of the MER is saying. And we talk to all the disciplines to make sure that they're getting what they need.
Excellent. And we have several cameras inside and outside of Orion. So I'd like to start with you talking about the live views we're seeing right now on our screen here, up here on the big board. Tell us a little bit about those cameras that are on the outside of Orion.
Yeah, so this is actually from a SAW camera, solar array wing. We have cameras on each of the SAW cameras, so there's 4 there. And you're currently viewing the back side of the service module, and then you have the moon there that is very bright because these cameras are actually set to look at the vehicle, not at the moon or the earth or stars. They're there so that we can see the external portion of the vehicles for inspections or any issues we might come up with.
Yeah.
Then we also have, that's another SAW view, we also have cameras, 3 cameras on the service module that look, like down the we call it the rocket cam, so it looks down the length of the service module. We have another one in the front. It's the forward bay area that will be looking at the.
These guys aren't saying much.
Along with President Trump, they're going to be hosting an Easter celebration at the White House. Joining us now with more on the festivities is Stephanie Ramirez with our team.
Is this
at
old?
Fox 5 in D.C. Stephanie, what can we expect?
What?
Hey, good morning. So we're on the front grounds of the White House.
Okay, Easter was yesterday. Are they doing something today? And if so, why? Yeah, I don't think they're doing anything today.
It's still happening right now, and it's the same way. Jesus Christ is sending the Holy Spirit. People are praying. The blood of the martyrs. There's modern day martyrs that give up their life for their faith. And then the young people who are searching, who need something to fill that void that only God can fill, are helping one another like disciples. And then the church is there waiting for them.
Wow. We do have some data to back this up. I want to start with this. This is a new survey from the Barna Group. It finds engagement among Gen Z and even millennials up more than 40% during a 6-month time span last year. So they're now going more often than older generations. This is really driving a spike here. How do you think it continues?
Well, it should continue because all of these young people are on fire, and I know so many of them, and their faith is real. And it's just keep on growing because they're helping one another to come more and more, and therefore it's going to be the new normal.
Okay.
And it's going to be the way that they're going to want to raise their families, which in the future is going to be a beautiful thing because these young people will get married, have families, and then teach the children the faith as a priority.
Yeah. Our phones are so distracting. And in a counter kind of factual to this, so many young Gen Zers are finding the church on their phones.
Exactly.
On TikTok. Do they want to get away from the distraction even though that's how they came about it?
Yes. And that's something that is important. When they come to the church, they want a beautiful, solemn mass. They want to really worship and so on. They need that sacred space to be with God and to be in communion with one another. But yes, it's a perfect example how something that can, on one side, be a temptation can also be used for good.
Yeah. Lastly, I'm really feeling hopeful on this Easter Sunday. We're in the news, and the news is depressing, and we cover a lot of very, very sad stuff here. But you just have these 2 stories, these 2 airmen, these 2 pilots recovered and they're safe. Yeah, they have injuries. They're going to be back with their families very, very soon. You're watching Artemis 2 right now from the Orion capsule with these beautiful, beautiful images of the Earth and hopefully soon the moon. How do we stay hopeful this year after the Lenten season is done?
Well, the Easter message is in itself a message of hope that, yes, there is Good Friday, but Good Friday doesn't make sense without Easter Sunday. So no matter, even if we feel we're in the midst of the Good Friday, we always keep our eyes on the light of the resurrection, on the Easter Sunday that God wants to give us all.
All right. Father Salvo, good to see you. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you, and happy Easter.
So I'm a millennial. I'm not a Gen Zer, but I think that this resurgence of young people going to church is awesome. It's super cool. They're even calling it cool. The next generation wants to go to church because they realize that there's a sense of community. They want to connect to God more than ever. And Enrique Salvo, he was just right on point. He was appointed by Cardinal Dolan. So he's another great example of someone who leads the church in the right direction. And I think it's resonating with the next generation.
Finally, Gen Z is doing more than helping me with my computer. This is good. No, but in all seriousness, it is good that it's not only a return to faith, but hopefully values. The restoration of value system is actually going to embrace the future, because they are the future. Yeah. You know, like the father was saying, they'll eventually start creating families and things of that nature. So this is a good sign for America. And we can thank a lot of people, of course, the Heavenly Father drawing them, but also on a secular level, people like Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Going to college campuses, going right where they are, evangelizing, if you will, not only faith-based values, but traditional values. And we thank him and so many other people. Stay tuned. Next up, the latest economic reports before the opening bell.
Christina Thompson, live from the New York Stock Exchange. There she is. She joins us next.
He tells it like it is, with decades covering.
Well, pre-market is still looking relatively the same as it did. Mixed bag. Nothing major in any direction, really. Nothing major in the news either. Probably not going to get to very much in the news until Donald Trump speaks tonight at 9. Again, I will be covering that. So be sure to be here.
Underway at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, just another event that we are going to take live and in full with no commercial interruptions. So as we take a live look here at the White House, just a reminder for everyone, if you are planning your day with us here, 10 a.m. Eastern Time is when we are expecting the president to host an Easter event alongside First Lady Melania Trump. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, President Trump will be providing that update on U.S. operations in Iran alongside U.S. military service members. We're going to step away for another quick commercial break, continuing with more of the day's top stories when we come back.
I swear everybody goes on commercial at the same time. Trying to find somebody who's got some worthwhile news going on, but so far it's looking like a newsless day. Like I said, everybody's waiting on, the hell is this? Blake Lively? I don't care about Blake Lively. I don't know about you, but I do not really care much at all about celebrities. I have the ones, of course, that I'm interested in, but I don't care what their thoughts are on government or politics or much of anything. They dance, monkey. That's my position on celebrities. That's your job. You dance for us, you perform for us. I don't care what your opinions are.
Turkey are all among that group working to secure a ceasefire. They want about a 45-day pause to stave off the strikes that the U.S. has threatened. And it also looks like that last-ditch effort to create this ceasefire is making some investors cautiously optimistic. The Asia-Pacific Index, as of this morning, is up just a little bit in the green, and oil has paired some of its gains on the hopes that this can, come to pass.
And U.S. stock futures are also up a little bit as well. On Wall Street, the word of the week is inflation. The consumer price index for March will drop on Friday, revealing the war in Iran's initial impacts on the prices Americans pay for everyday things. It's already a given that gas prices have gone way up, but analysts will be looking for any ripple effects from the energy shock on other goods and services. More clues could also come from Delta's earnings on Wednesday. Airlines have been on the economic front lines of the war.
Yeah, economists are expecting a 1% increase in the consumer price index for March. That would be the sharpest one-month rise since 2022, of course, powered by the rise in oil prices.
In the sports world, Michigan and UConn face off in the men's college national championship tonight. Michigan obliterated Arizona, who was considered an elite team, while UConn is approaching dynasty mode, appearing in their third title game in 4 years. In the women's tournament, UCLA dominated South Carolina last night to take home the program's first ever title.
By the way, someone needs to roll the tape of me predicting Michigan before the tournament starts. That is, of course, if Michigan wins. If UConn wins...
I don't care. Never been much of a big sports fan.
Over in Washington, D.C. Today, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we are expecting President Trump to host a news conference and provide an update on U.S. operations in the Middle East and specifically in Iran. The Associated Press reporting that the Israeli defense minister earlier today said Israel attacked the South Pars petrochemical plant in Iran, so the tensions do remain high, as President Trump has also issued a deadline and a warning to Tehran to completely reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Also, the head of intelligence for Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard was killed, according to Iranian state media. Israel claimed it was responsible for that killing earlier today. Israel and the U.S. also carried out a wave of attacks on Iran today as well, killing more than 25 people. Iran responded with missile fire on Israel and its Gulf Arab neighbors. President Trump's deadline for Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz is
why they keep reporting it like Iran responded. All of this that's going on is a response to Iran. They've got a 1,000-year-old prophecy that tells them they must destroy Israel to bring on the apocalypse and to bring back their prophet. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about their prophecy, which allows them to lie and mischaracterize things. They're on a mission from God, for Christ's sake, according to them, and their idiotic BS. That's why they've funded Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hamas, because those people are closer to Israel. They want to act like Israel's the aggressor. Are you kidding me? Israel has only ever responded in defense. And you can laugh at that all you want. It's the truth.
Times very confidential. So what can the public realistically expect to learn about the U.S. and how it's conducting its operations there in the Middle East?
Well, my guess is that the first thing the president will talk about is the rescue of the two aviators. That was a remarkable military operation, and he will, I think, celebrate that and maybe give us some more details. There are negotiations going on, as we've heard, and he may say that he has paused the threat to strike Iranian infrastructure as to continue the negotiations. And it's possible, and he might describe U.S. other military operations, but I think he's going to stick to those 3 points.
Hello,
no
Moto.
worries, Mark. We get phone calls all the time here as well. I want to go back to some of the comments that we heard from President Trump. Not heard, but we read over in his social media platform over the weekend. I want to take us out to this one. It's one that's making headlines. A lot of people are talking about it. I'm not going to read it in full. There's a lot of colorful language. There's some expletives here. But basically, he starts by saying Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. I want to go off of this, kind of the sentiment and what we're seeing from the president at this moment. We've been at this war for several weeks now after the U.S. and Israeli forces both conducted those joint strikes in Iran. Mark, going off of this, what we're seeing from the president, also given a news conference later on today, how would you characterize the state or where we are in this war, so to speak, the U.S. specifically?
Well, you can sense President Trump's frustration in this post. The president has said for quite some time that he believes that the United States has won the war, that it has devastated Iran's nuclear program, its defense industrial base, and he just can't understand why the Iranians won't give in. I think this is a reflection of it. I think his threats
They'll never give in.
Infrastructure are also part of that. The United States militarily has done a superb job beating down the Iranian air defenses and attacking targets in Iran. It's done a credible job in defending against missiles and drones. Not perfect, but we and our allies have been able to shoot down most of them. Where the United States has fallen short is keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. It's a problem we've known about for 45 years, but have been unable to keep it open. And that's been a serious weakness because that's now Iran's major leverage against the United States.
We are taking a live look here. It's a radar system, courtesy of marine traffic. So it shows some of the traffic there, vessel traffic at the Strait of Hormuz, and just seeing how that activity is looking like at this time. Mark, having you on here, I also wanted you to kind of comment on, the successes or some of the challenges that the U.S. has faced given all of these operations. Turning now to a couple of social media posts from U.S. CENTCOM. They've been providing updates really to the public here just to give us a glimpse as to how things are going. So this post includes a video, and I'm going to play it in just a second here, but it reads, Iranian military capabilities continue to decline as U.S. forces relentlessly strike military targets inside Iran. I'm going to bring up the video right now. This, again, posted by U.S. CENTCOM. Mark, when you see videos like this that are being displayed to the public, what is this kind of messaging to the American people? What exactly are we looking like at this moment? And what really sticks out to you, possibly as some of the most successful missions that have been accomplished by the U.S. amid this war?
Well, what we're seeing are precision strikes, and the United States is very capable in this regard. We have air superiority over Iran, not dominance, as we've seen, but we can fly anywhere, we can strike any target.
Just about.
And as we're seeing here, the United States is doing that. We're attacking about 300, 350 targets every day. And these are just,
we might be about to kick it up on overdrive tonight.
The problem we've had is that although the United States has been able to destroy a great deal of the Iranian military capability, its nuclear program, its missile program, we've not been able to translate that into a political solution that meets our goals.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do have a question in regards to that. As we mentioned, going on. So how would you be able to classify, and with your assessment and expertise, the fact that we do see not just military action being taken, constantly here, but also these negotiation and mediation efforts? I mean, how do both of those things intersect? They're both so far apart on the spectrum as to how to conduct an end to this war.
Well, it's common that negotiations to end the war are simultaneous with the conduct of the war. You have to keep in mind that when the Korean War ended, the United States had been negotiating for, I think, 2 years before an armistice was finally agreed to. So this is not unusual. What is unusual is, the president's setting of deadlines and then extending them. I think we've gone through 2 or 3 iterations of that, and you can sense his frustration. He really wants to make a deal. He really hopes that the negotiations will produce something, but the Iranians have apparently been...
Sorry, I'm not ignoring anybody. I just had some messages coming in that I had to respond to. A cousin of mine has some stuff going on. Not to get personal.
Ceasefire. Sources said the chances for a deal in the next 48 hours are slim, but this last-ditch effort is the only chance to prevent a dramatic war escalation.
Oh, boy, do I have some stuff going on myself. I got the bubble guts.
Started by saying most likely we're going to get an update from that rescue operation that happened over the weekend, in which 2 U.S. service members, they were rescued after their aircraft, the jet fighting plane that they were in, it was shot down over Iranian territory. It brings me to this. When we have U.S. troops that are deep in Iranian territory, what are some of the challenges that they face, and how do commanders and leadership within several of these sectors prepare and plan to make sure that troops stay safe?
Well, the United States has an elaborate mechanism for rescuing aviators that are...
We are just 25-ish minutes away from the opening bell. Honestly, guys, I don't expect much of a big deal today because everybody's waiting, literally just the whole world's waiting to hear what Trump's going to do. Markets will certainly react later.
Fuel, so they can get into enemy territory and survive, pick up aviators. But we also had special forces ready to go. We pulled together capabilities from all across the services. That's something that basically only the United States can do between the joint operation and the specialized equipment. We make a commitment that we will leave no one behind and that we will go to great efforts to rescue aviators and any prisoners. We've seen that here, and we've seen it through U.S. history.
We've also had a lot of messaging courtesy of the Trump administration about, again, those successes that the U.S. has had there in Iran, particularly when trying to degrade some of their military capabilities. But over the weekend, we did see that Iran took credit for shooting down one of these aircraft that was part of the U.S. military. Mark, is there anything that has surprised you, really, when you see how Iran is conducting its offense in this war? Something that perhaps it stood out to you?
The fact that Iran can still strike back is not surprising. I think it did surprise much of the population because we have become accustomed to conflicts with essentially very little casualties and very little loss of equipment. But in wars, it's inevitable that you're going to lose equipment. By historic standards, our aircraft losses are extremely low, but they aren't zero. And if the air war continues, we'll lose other aircraft. That's just part of conflict. I think the Iranian ability to shut the strait off and keep it shut off has been a surprise. The United States Navy has been thinking about this for 45 years, but was unable to come up with a solution to keep it open. And although the administration says that it has built plans for this whole operation, everything's going according to plan, I can't believe that having the strait shut for 5 weeks was part of this. So that has been unexpected.
Speaking of the Strait of Hormuz, this once again is that live radar system. We also have a social media post courtesy of Bloomberg. Traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has climbed to its highest levels since the early days of the war as more countries secure apparent safe passage agreements with Iran. So that is something we're following closely. Mark, my final question for you today, because again, we are waiting for that official update from President Trump to get a lot of these questions answered. In your assessment, based on the recent deployments we've seen involving U.S. military personnel out to the Middle East, what does that potentially signal in terms of a long-term military presence there in Iran and in several of those surrounding nations?
Well, it's been a lot of focus on U.S. ground forces that are headed to the Middle East. We have to keep in mind that those forces are extremely limited. About 7,000 when you count all of the Army paratroopers and Marines that are on the way. Not all of the Marines have arrived. People talk about boots on the ground, very worried about that. This is not a force that's going to land on the mainland. It's not going to march on Tehran. It's nothing like.
All right, we've got about 20 minutes. I think 5 minutes ago I said we had 25. Yeah. We got 20 minutes till the market opens. Bitcoin running flat. Oil futures running flat. Dollar doing all right. Silver had a little kick up this morning about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's holding. Gold ran up along with it, but now it's coming back down a little bit. Heat maps looking relatively flat. Mixed bag. The big players are flat. I expect the market to stay relatively flat until Trump makes an announcement. I mean, the entire world is waiting to hear what Trump has to say. Whether we're going to obliterate Iran or tuck our tail between our legs, honestly, you don't want to know what I think. I don't think YouTube or... I know Rumble will let me say it, but I don't think YouTube will. the Islamic Republic of Iran, in my opinion, needs to die. The people of Iran, that's a different story. I'm of the thinking, make Iran Persia again. You know, because most of the Iranian population, most of them don't want this Islamic republic in their country. It's meant 47 years of oppression and, you know, child marriage. How you can be against the liberation of those people is beyond me. Yes, I know that wasn't the initial reason for starting this war. But look, man, somebody had to do it. They've had this coming for a long time. Iran's had this coming for a long time. And it can be argued that, you know, what we did with Iran kind of caused this, be that as it may. We're living in the here and now. We have to operate within those parameters of what's going on now. And if you do believe that we caused problems in Iran, well, then you should also believe that we owe them our help. You know? So it can definitely be argued that we owe Iran this liberation. Now, whatever reasons you want to put to it, even whatever reasons, you know, our leadership claims are the main reasons, or whatever. If liberation is a by proxy result or outcome of all of this, then it's worth it to me. And the people of Iran would agree. Most of them. I mean, let's just be clear.
If you did, because Iran has shown that they can absorb those and continue to hold that straight and to continue to be effective as a government. So it's unclear to me really what could represent something of the nature he's talking about there.
I also want to ask you about this rescue mission of that U.S. airmen in Iran. We just heard from Megan on some of this, but just from a military perspective, I mean, hundreds of special operations troops and military personnel were involved, including, as we heard from Megan, the CIA. Walk us through a mission like that, how dangerous and risky it is.
Yeah, you know, that issue about the CIA, it's a little peculiar, I'll say, because why would we need the CIA to try to locate the guy? Because
oh God, shut up! Just like liberal media to just try and doubt every damn thing that's been said. Shut the fuck up.
Easter egg roll right there on the lawn. Then later at 1 o'clock, the president will be making remarks about the war in Iran and that incredible rescue of those two downed flyers over the weekend. Also, strange rumors this past weekend that our president was in the hospital. What? He was locked up in the war room overseeing the rescue of the pilot and that weapons specialist. More news now, right after this.
Well, that'd be news to me.
You served your country with honor.
Once again, everybody on commercials.
Sitting here being like, how are we defining superintelligence in this current moment with this, you know, how's your token usage being gated today? You know, how are you guys dealing with this?
I'm going to go have a smoke.
I'm sorry. There are some IT departments where
the
that's a major
opens.
concern.
I'll be right back.
That discourse, maybe this gets us to our next discussion, is like, has gone so far away from here's a big thing, we think it's a big opportunity, and here are the 4 or 5 note card points you need to act on.
We'll leave the details of that kind of discourse to another show that just got purchased by another company.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I'm talking about TBPN is what we're talking about, which is the very niche tech podcast that is listened to by most cognoscenti of the tech world that just got bought by OpenAI.
Yes. This is really what you missed last week.
This is what I missed last week. I don't know. I texted
this and the Allbirds deal.
This when I'm on vacation, not everything rises to a text level. If I'm on vacation, the TBPN thing rose to that level. And you wrote about it also for Yahoo Finance and on LinkedIn. I noticed you.
I'm trying to do a little more LinkedIn these days.
I've noticed the uptick in your LinkedIn
feels good. Yeah, we'll see.
Leadership.
That's right.
You know, but like, why does the tech world like TBPN? Because it's about them.
Yep.
Because it's about them in a mostly, I mean, listen, I haven't listened to the thing extensively, in a mostly favorable way.
I don't
Is that
think
fair to
it's,
say or no?
So I think that, man, there were a lot of, they gave us a takes Super Bowl, and it still is. Look at us here, and this is not ending anytime soon. I think that their conversation around tech gets framed as favorable when it's like being not adversarial does not mean you're necessarily favorable, right? It's kind of like the logic loop. It's like just because you're not doesn't mean you are. So yeah, they're not necessarily like adversarial towards the industry or towards certain developments or certain folks who may be viewed as adversaries, let's just say. Yeah. They're not gonna, the default might not be like, oh yeah, let's pile on this, right? But I think they just are like, having consumed a lot of their content, it's like, okay, well, they're interested in tech, they're interested in how to build companies, which both John and Jordy, who host the show, have done, and obviously did it another time with the business of TBPN. Yeah. And I think that they just want to have the conversations that they want to have. And what I view as like the obvious reason why the show was successful is that they were doing the show they wanted to do. And I just think there's this unsaid, there's a very know it when you see it kind of quality to that show. But I think to all the media that works, it's like that works because the person who's doing it is all the way bought in. Right. And that is not really a thing that is as common as we would like to believe. And especially given how much media there is, how competitive the space is, how all the different things are distributed. That was always my impression of the show. And I don't know, I think the OpenAI, like, I'm kind of on Ben Thompson's side. I don't know what OpenAI is doing here, but like, that's not the conversation that I was thinking about with this. Or like, that wasn't my first thought, was what's OpenAI doing? I was like, oh, it's good for them.
Good for the guys.
Good for John and Jordy. Yeah, they did their thing their way and they got rewarded.
Sure. I don't have any feelings about that whatsoever, not being a particular fan or not of the show. My question was like, what? Why? Why is this happening? I mean, and it's happening at a time when I think, you know, there's only going to be increasing scrutiny of OpenAI's business as it prepares to go public. And so making a move like this is just one more step in that direction of like, okay, I mean, listen, they got a lot of cash. They can use it to build data centers, or they can use it to a tiny sliver of it to buy this podcast. Yeah, fine, whatever. I mean, but I guess it's just part of the bigger story of like, what is OpenAI doing here from a business perspective? Yeah. With everything, like, are you know, and once they finally do go public, is anyone, I mean, yes, lots of people are going to want to invest in them, but should they? Yeah. Well, I will outsource on this. I will outsource my opinion on the state of OpenAI, kind of pegged to this, to Ben Thompson, who writes the Stratechery newsletter, very well regarded in the tech community. And I do think that this kind of thinking always comes out best in text. And so since Ben wrote this down, I will quote from this at length. Do it. I've previously wondered if OpenAI might be like Twitter, another tech-centric company that fell backwards into a huge market and never developed into a functional business because of it. So on and so forth, a couple analogies. So he goes, OpenAI said, like, ads are bad until they're the plan. Meta execs are hired en masse, and the ads that launch are low-effort, keyword-driven offerings. Apple's a partner until Johnny Ive is hired, but he's still doing projects for Ferrari. Meanwhile, Anthropic is focused on enterprise and shipping. Google is encroaching. The answer to that is to buy a podcast. And I do feel like watching OpenAI and storing the information over the weekend about potential disagreements between Sam Altman and Sarah Fryer around how to run the IPO, what that's going to look like. I mean, I recall, was it less than 2 years ago? Remember, it was a Friday afternoon. It's like, Sam Altman has been fired at OpenAI. This is the same company. And it just is starting to look like there's something that isn't fully aligned, let's say, from the business, which is fine, except when you're worth $852 billion, the stakes just get a little bit higher. Well, and this lands at the same time that we have a new really diving deep into what happened behind that firing. I have, full disclosure, I haven't gotten through that whole story yet. It also comes the same morning.
It's very long.
Yes, that Mike
Two
Allen,
bylines in the New Yorker. Yeah.
Mike Allen is out with an interview with Sam Altman in Axios where Altman appears to be trying to sort of take the mantle from Dario over at Anthropic in terms of being a public policy thought leader on AI and how that should work going forward. You know, and by the way, one of the discussions I had with a private equity friend was, are we headed towards a universal basic income future where because of AI and you know,
maybe
this sort of gestures at that. By the way, how do you fund
not for everybody
the future population of the United States if people are not working?
You can best believe the poor is not factored into that. The poor is not factored into that equation. If there's any kind of basic universal income, the peasants are likely not going to see any of that.
As a productive adult the next 34 years, I know we mailed checks to everyone in the pandemic, but this idea that we're just all of a sudden going to start living in a UBI, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that either.
And my position is sort of like, even if it does happen, that is not a desirable outcome.
Right, and so why is that all these guys are talking about? You know?
Speaking of equity, here we have Mayor Jackass of New York.
Boulevard in Queens. And every single day I've been in office,
I love hearing what this piece of human garbage has to say.
To working class New Yorkers, small businesses, and so many others who've been ripped off by large corporations and they've struggled to make their ends meet in this city. Now, as we finalize this plan, we will continue to tackle our city's affordability crisis without turning away from the decades and frankly centuries of disinvestment
This bastard
in black
needs to
and
go.
brown New Yorkers. Now, we will need New Yorkers' help with this work.
He needs to
the plan
go.
we are announcing today is a preliminary one. And to complete it, we are opening a 30-day public comment period.
Public comment
I know
period.
one thing we love about the city is we have no shortage of opinions.
Yeah.
And we are asking New Yorkers to share them with us.
Yeah, I don't think you
Because
want
we
to know the
know
opinions of the
that in
people
those
there, buddy.
opinions, we will find the answer as to what government can.
I hope it's largely messages telling him to get the out. I hope it is. Oh, this is only going to end well.
Now, as we chart this new path forward, we
jackass.
do so with the wish that it be guided by a very simple purpose.
He's the
That in
next
the
guy.
wealthiest-
He's next in line for some sort of scandal. As soon as the powers that be decide that everybody else we've got under a microscope dies down, this guy's next. You can bet it.
Mayor for Economic Justice, Julie Su.
Don't clap for that son of a bitch.
Thank you so much, Mayor. New York City, as you just heard, is one of the richest cities in the entire world.
Yeah, obviously.
Yet for too many New Yorkers, that wealth feels like someone else's city.
Yes, relatively speaking, too.
62% of New Yorkers, more than 5 million people, cannot meet the true cost of living in this city.
Yeah.
This crisis did not fall from the sky, and it does not hit evenly.
Yeah, and it's being exacerbated by a Muslim socialist. Fucking Christ. How can people be so disillusioned? How can so many people, enough to elect him, be so disillusioned? God, unbelievable that he even got elected. I mean, people want change. And anybody who comes along talking about change, they just take it at his word. They don't, 25 years before this jerk-off was elected, we would have never we would have never thought any kind of Muslim would be in power in New York. I mean, come on. It blows my mind.
All of those percentages are bad.
And no, it's not Islamophobic to say these things. First of all, it's not a phobia. Nobody's afraid to say these things. Get it straight. Just to hate on somebody because of their religion, that is not at all what's going on when I say this guy. It's not because he's Islamic. It's not because he's a Muslim. That has a heavy weight attached to it, yeah. But it's by and large because he's an idiot, socialist. And I don't believe for 1 second that his intentions are altruistic. I don't believe it for 1 second.
Clash politics taught people to resent government programs instead of expanding them.
Yeah, they resent them because they cost people, and it's highly. There's no equity when it comes to it. You know, understand the difference between equality and equity.
And a shrinking middle class. So we are releasing these reports together because they tell one story. Many of the same forces that drive racial inequity, exclusion, and economic security also helped produce a city that has become harder for New Yorkers of every background to afford. As Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice, my job is to make sure that this story ends differently. And we are already hard at work. The mayor mentioned protecting tenants, making childcare more affordable, strengthening worker and consumer protections, starting an Office of Community Safety, cutting red tape for small businesses, working with organizations led by and for Black and brown New Yorkers to decide what happens in them, and pursuing economic development that serves all of us, and economic growth that
I want
is
to
shared
explain
growth.
why this egalitarianism is just so stupid. I mean, for the most part, it can undermine individual merit and achievement because they promote equality of outcomes rather than the equality of opportunity. Not everybody deserves the same thing as the next guy because not everybody puts in the same amount of effort or work. I mean, it just leads to ridiculous inefficiencies. And then, of course, it'll lead to the lack of motivation for anybody to excel. If you have everything handed to you, where's your drive? Where's your if everything's handed to you, why bother putting in effort? Some people will, yes, but by and large, the people you're wanting to give this equality to are going to be inclined to sit around and collect it. That's just the nature of certain types of people. You know, and it's only the people that are standing with their hand out wanting something for free that are willing to do the least amount of work. It's never the hard-working people. Ever. All right, we are just minutes away from the opening bell. And as you can see on the heat map so far, we've got a mixed bag today, guys. There's nothing major. I wouldn't suspect there's nothing major that's really going to come out. That's going to happen today because everybody's waiting on Trump. Quite frankly, everybody's waiting to hear what he has to say. Right, tonight at 9 p.m. I will be here live to bring you Donald Trump's speech. So be here. We will cover it live. What's Tom Homan saying?
Is in the fall of 1996. Alan Greenspan talked about a rational.
All right, we're less than a minute away from opening bell.
At 1,300, and the Nasdaq peaked 3.5 years later at over 5,000. So you know, these things can go on for a long time, but ultimately,
oil
there are adjustments. There
peaking up. Ooh, hey, look at that!
And just it's hard.
Crude oil
it's hard
futures are
to
just now starting to run.
The technology trend and the investment is real.
Dollar coming down a tiny bit. Bitcoin running flat, silver coming down, gold.
Welcome back to the opening trade. Watch Bloomberg.
All right, here we go.
This is Wall Street Week. Welcome to Balance of Power.
You're watching Bloomberg Deals. Welcome to Bloomberg This Weekend.
There's always a delay, so by the time you hear the bell coming from me, it's probably about 15, 20 seconds off. I'll say the bell's open. I'll say when it happens before you hear that bell go off. And that's it. 9:30.
Welcome to Monday. We've got just
That's the
about
bell.
20 seconds left until the opening.
Could I
We
say
could
about 20
have
seconds
a
off?
fourth straight day of gains, but we're fluctuating here on futures right now. As you can see from the S&P, doing a whole lot of nothing there. NASDAQ futures are still up, as are the small caps. We've got Charles River Laboratory ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange.
All right, NVIDIA. Looks like it ran up a little bit, 75 cents. One of my favorite names for a company, Astronics. I don't know why I love Astronics so much. It's got an excellent name, Astronics. You couldn't ask for a better name for a company than Astronics. ST Microelectronics. Woo! Look at that. And if you're new here, my red list, these are suppliers for SpaceX. These are stocks to watch up until the IPO for SpaceX actually comes out, which will probably be in June or July. These are suppliers to SpaceX and would also be an excellent investment alongside them. And Broadcom. Broadcom's always been a decent investment, right? And of course, there is the South Korean company Bastille. You cannot invest in these guys in the American market. You have to go to the South Korean market, which don't ask me how to do that. I've never done it. I'm sure it's not hard. You should be able to do it right here in TradingView, yes? No? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it depends on who's got it available, yeah. And I couldn't tell you if this is Bastille you'd want to jump into or this Bastille. There's two of them on the South Korean market. Anyway, I'm not going to cover them just because there's no sense in covering them. It's just something to look into because along with the exchange rate with their money, if you time it just right, you can make a pretty penny, I'm sure. So NVIDIA looking flat. Look at that. Crypto market is up anywhere from 3 to 10%. Overall, sideways for the last hour. Stock heat map looking like a lot of red. A lot of red and a lot of sideways. Not very much green. That's interesting. Let's take a look at the biggest wieners, up 50,000%. Congratulations if you had any Scores holding company with only 20,000 shares moving. Well, that's not manipulation or anything. And I'm noticing that tokenized stocks aren't really hitting so hard here lately. That's probably because of the war. But I'm telling you, pay attention to the crypto space when it comes to tokenized stocks. I'm telling you, this is the new thing. It might take a minute to catch on, but I'm telling you, pay attention. You can trade these companies during 24 hours a day because of it. You're seeing a lot of tokenized stocks going on. This is the way. This is the new new paradigm of investment, people. I'm telling you, nobody's really paying attention to it. Nobody's really taking it very seriously. But I'm telling you, this is the future, like it or not. If you don't believe it is, you're just as bad as those people who said the internet was just a fad in the 90s. You better get with the program. The future's going to leave you behind. And it doesn't matter how you feel about Bitcoin. This is different. Blockchain technology, if you really understood it, you'd be all for it. Blockchain technology is so beautiful, it's almost alien. Like, it's just so brilliantly, like the whole thing was just so brilliant. That's why there's so many conspiracy theories about Satoshi Nakamoto, because like the technology was just amazing. Yes, they were working on it forever. Yes, many other people were working on it too. Yes, I understand that. But, you know, blockchain itself is brilliant and absolutely brilliant. But the code is like, the code by itself. I mean, if you were to create a digital Bible of any kind, you're damn right. I know that sounds crazy. What the hell is a digital Bible? I mean, like, let's say AI wrote a Bible about, created some form of religion that was focused around. I know it's a crazy idea, but follow me on this. You know, if AI were to give birth to some sort of techno religion that incorporated technology into it, you know, this is crazy. Don't get me wrong, but you can bet your ass blockchain would be tantamount to in the beginning. But yeah, tokenized stocks, man, that's the way to go. It might take another 20 to 50 years before it really catches on. Or maybe not. Maybe it'll happen way sooner. Ooh, ouch. Who the hell is down 100% in a day? Doesn't that mean you're dead? 400 shares? And that's 100% of your... What? Ooh, ouch. Damn. This is what all these companies making these insane moves, this is what they always look like. What the hell is that? If you invested in any of these companies, I'm so sorry. They are all sucking it. I'm going to go check out some other stuff. Ooh, look at NVIDIA taking a dive. I want to look at some other statistics. Volatility is up. Highest volume stocks today is looking like Tesla, and NVIDIA. Soleno Therapeutics, Micron, SanDisk, Advanced Micro Devices, yeah. Most volatile. Ooh, 140% volatility. Ouch. Profusa. Biggest gainers. Focus Universal. Biggest losers. Stabilis Solutions. Interesting. Bond yields have been a little wonky lately. And don't get me wrong, I don't pretend to understand all this, but from what I understand, they are a safe haven depending on what's going on in the market. You know, when the Fed buys them, they're hedging their bets, right? Corporate bonds. I definitely don't know anything about corporate bonds. Imagine if I did, I probably would be a little bit better financially off. Highest dividend yields, Granite shares. You notice the highest dividend yields are always going to be an ETF. I say it all the time. Dumping money periodically into an ETF is, statistically speaking, always a better investment than trying to time the market and play options and all that shit. I just wish I had taken that advice myself before I lost $70,000 2-3 months ago. Yes, I lost the majority of the money I got from selling my house, and now I'm homeless. Because why? Because I'm retarded. Big mistake. So yeah. I'm disabled and I'm waiting on a disability hearing. I'm in the last stages of my disability process. I'm getting down to the wire because the person I'm staying with, she's got to be getting sick of my shit by now. I'm just praying that she'll have some more patience with me. And I will damn sure make it good for her. I have a surprise planned for her. Because I'm just that kind of person. You do me good, I'm going to do you better when I can. Unfortunately, as embarrassing as it is, I can't do very much. All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it. It's a mixed bag. I got to go to the store, get some smokes. I just had somebody send me about $20. I needed me some smokes. Call it an affirmation of life. All right. Well, guys, that's it. Love you in the mouth. Peace, love, and hair grease. Check back today at 9 p.m. for me putting Trump up on the screen so we can hear what he's going to say. And if anything major happens, I'll be back for that.